Chapter 482. Dao longed to use this level 20 equipment to change his fate. It was his last hope, and also his only hope. Now his hopes had been dashed. Level 20 equipment could not change his fate. His life trajectory would be as he had imagined in the past. He would be mediocre for the rest of his life. Silver Knife was unwilling to give up. The reason why he wanted to get a level 20 equipment was to change his fate. Thinking of this, a glimmer of light suddenly appeared in Dao's somewhat crazy eyes. He had thought of something. Since level 20 equipment couldn't change his fate, then he could ask for something higher. Level 25 equipment. As long as he could get Water Spirit to give him a level 25 equipment, he would definitely be able to move the heart of the godly knife sex patriarch and make him accept him as a disciple. Thinking of this, Dao's heart spun even faster. As long as he had a level 25 equipment, he would be able to change his fate, his original life path. Dao believed that although his talent wasn't high, but if the godly knife sex patriarch taught him carefully, he would definitely become outstanding. Dao even thought that if his luck was good, the godly knife sex patriarch, after having countless dreams in his heart, Dao suddenly woke up after a long time. He turned his head to look at Water Spirit, and suddenly said loudly, "Senior Water Spirit, you have to help me. You have to help me." Seeing Dao's appearance, Water Spirit nodded and said with a smile, "Brother Dao, as long as you don't want to become a disciple of the godly knife sex patriarch, I will definitely find a way to help you." Saying this, Water Spirit patted Dao's shoulder. "Brother Dao, slowly endure. In the future, you will definitely become outstanding." Hearing Water Spirit's words, Dao nodded gratefully and then said loudly, "I don't want to become a disciple of someone else. I want to become a disciple of the godly knife sex patriarch. Senior Water Spirit, as long as you give me a level 25 equipment, I will be able to achieve this dream. I hope you can help me. I only want a level 25 equipment." Hearing this, Water Spirit's eyes widened in shock as she stared at the silver saber in disbelief. It was only after a long time that she finally recovered her wits. "Brother Dao, are you joking?" Dao shook his head and said with a face full of expectation, "Senior Water Spirit, I'm not joking. I'm serious. I've already calculated everything. The reason why the godly knife sex sect master is forging level 24 equipment is because he needs level 24 equipment. That's why he sold the level 23 equipment." Speaking up to this point, Silver Knife could not help but laugh. It was as if he had just discovered an incredible secret. His smile was so sincere. "Senior Water Spirit, if I had a piece of level 25 equipment, he would definitely accept me as a disciple. Senior Water Spirit, can you help me?" After hearing Dao's words and seeing the smile on his face, Shui Lingzi suddenly discovered that Dao's smile was somewhat distorted. Seeing this, Shui Lingzi subconsciously took 2 steps back. Even if he was skilled in martial arts, there was nothing he could do when he met a lunatic, especially this kind of lunatic who could neither be beaten nor scolded. He was even more helpless. Shui Lingzi stood firm and sighed. "Brother Dao, please forgive me for not being able to help you. I'm sorry." Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Dao immediately took a step forward and closed the distance between them. Only then did he stare into Shui Lingzi's eyes and said with a smile, "Senior Water Spirit, please don't tease this junior. You're a consecrator of the Tiangongmen. Although level 25 equipment is rare, it's definitely not a problem for an elder like you." Speaking up to here, Dao paused for a moment and laughed along with Shui Lingzi before continuing, "Senior Water Spirit, if you help this junior this time, this junior will definitely repay senior in the future." After hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi sighed. Although helping others is a good trait, if the helper does not meet the requirements of the person being helped, then no one can do anything. Shui Lingzi pondered for a moment before looking up at Dao and softly said, "Brother Dao, do you know how many level 25 equipment this old man has seen in his long life?" Hearing this, Dao smiled and replied, "With your status and age, you must have seen countless level 25 equipment." Shui Lingzi shook her head and lightly sighed. This old man has seen a total of 10 times. Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Yin Dao couldn't help but frown as he asked, "Really? Senior water spirit, you're not lying to me?" Shui Lingzi sighed. "Why would I lie to you? Up until now, this old man has only seen level 25 equipment 10 times." Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi's tone paused for a moment as a trace of nostalgia appeared in her eyes. After a while, she slowly said, "Those who can have level 25 equipment are all senior experts. Many of them are no longer in this world or have already seen through the world of mortals and are living in seclusion. In short, anyone who can possess level 25 equipment is definitely an extraordinary person." Hearing this, Yindao tentatively asked, "Senior water spirit, could it be that you don't have level 25 equipment?" Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled and shook her head. "Super equipment like that. Not only this old man doesn't have it, but even the Tiangongmen don't have it." Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao's face suddenly became ashen. He looked at Shui Lingzi and suddenly roared, "You're lying to me. In order to not give me level 25 equipment, you're finding excuses to lie to me." Speaking up to here, Yin Dao suddenly sneered and took a step forward, getting closer to Shui Lingzi, then coldly said, "You said you don't have level 25 equipment. Even the Tiangongmen don't have level 25 equipment. Do you think I'll believe this kind of lie? Your Tiangongmen are the biggest equipment-making sect in the South region, and you actually said that the Tiangongmen don't have level 25 equipment. Isn't this too laughable?" Shui Lingzi looked at Yin Dao with some pity and sighed. "Brother Yin Dao, you have to calm down. What I said is true. Think about it. Even your godly blade sect master might not have level 25 equipment. Don't you understand how precious level 25 equipment is?" Yin Dao suddenly roared and pointed at Shui Lingzi. "I don't care. You injured me. So you have to compensate me with a level 25 equipment. Otherwise, all the conditions we just discussed will be null and void." Shui Lingzi sighed and looked at the angry Yin Dao. After a while, she slowly said, "Brother Yin Dao, don't you understand why I'm talking to you so much?" Hearing this, Yin Dao coldly snorted. "Why else? You clearly look down on me and don't want to compensate me." Shui Lingzi shook her head. "I can swear that I didn't mean that. The reason I'm talking to you for so long is because I know that Brother Yin Dao doesn't have it easy, so I want to solve this problem peacefully. It's not that I don't want to compensate you. You misunderstood." Chapter 483. Yin Dao loudly asked, "Water spirit, you keep saying that you're not looking down on me. Then why don't you compensate me?" Water spirit sighed. "Brother Yin Dao, even I don't have level 25 equipment. How can I compensate you?" Yin Dao coldly laughed. "Water spirit, just because you don't have level 25 equipment doesn't mean that the Tiangongmen don't have it either." At this point, Silver Knife paused for a moment before continuing. "You can talk to the people in charge of the Heaven's Craftsman faction and ask them to compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment." Just as Yin Dao finished speaking, Fire Spirit coldly laughed. "Yin Dao, brat, are you crazy? Do you know what you're talking about?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Yin Dao slowly turned his head and coldly said, "Fire Spirit, who are you calling crazy?" When Yin Dao turned his head, Fire Spirit saw his expression and was shocked. At this moment, Yin Dao's expression was filled with madness. Fire Spirit calmed himself down and said loudly, "Yin Dao, do you know how precious a level 25 equipment is? Don't forget, even your godly sword sect master can't get a piece of level 25 equipment easily, let alone you." Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Silverblade's face twitched a few times. He then let out a cold laugh. "Fire Spirit, are you trying to say that even your godly blade sect master can't get a piece of level 25 equipment? You useless fellow, stop dreaming." Fire Spirit nodded and calmly said, "That's what I mean. Do you think anyone can get a level 25 equipment? Not to mention you. Even many of the Tiangongmen's disciples haven't seen level 25 equipment." After hearing Fire Spirit's answer, Silver Knife suddenly laughed out loud. "Isn't that even better? Level 25 equipment is actually so precious. Then, as long as I get it, I can fulfill my dream. Fire Spirit shook his head and coldly laughed. If you want to rely on this level 25 equipment to fulfill your dream, then forget it. Put away your laughable thoughts. We don't have any level 25 equipment. If you really want it, go to your guild master. Hearing this, Dao's eyes suddenly widened. He stared at Fire Spirit and asked in a low voice, Fire Spirit, you really don't want to give it to me? Fire Spirit laughed coldly. Even I don't have level 25 equipment. What can I give you? Hearing Fire Spirit's answer, Dao suddenly took a deep breath. He suddenly turned his head to look at his brothers behind him and said loudly, Brother, if I'm killed later, don't forget to go back and tell the faction master that the Water Spirit and Fire Spirit of the Heavens Craftsman faction want to provoke a war between the two factions. I hope he'll take precautions early and not let the people of the Heavens Craftsman faction succeed. After hearing Dao's words, the people behind him responded in unison. Understood. After hearing this, Dao turned around and looked at Fire Spirit. He took another step forward and got even closer to Fire Spirit before speaking in a cold voice. Fire Spirit, the distance between us should be the most suitable distance for you to attack. At this distance, you should be able to use your full strength. Speaking up to here, Dao paused for a moment before continuing. Fire Spirit, make your move. Fire Spirit looked at Dao in shock and asked in a low voice, What do you want to do? Fire Spirit had wandered the world for so long and had met countless people. However, there were only 3 types of people. After meeting a strong enemy, one type of person would be afraid of death and would beg for mercy. The other type of person would fight to the death and would never back down. The last type of person would not even say a word. As long as they saw a strong enemy, they would turn around and run. However, this was the first time Fire Spirit had met someone like Dao. Fire Spirit already understood Dao's meaning. Therefore, he did not dare to make a move. If he really broke Dao, then things would be bad. Even if Fire Spirit had a bad temper, he was not an idiot. He knew how strong the Godly Sword Sect was. In terms of equipment, the Godly Sword Sect was definitely not a match for the Taiyangomen. However, in terms of martial arts, the Taiyangomen were definitely not a match for the Godly Sword Sect. If the two sects fought, the Taiyangomen would definitely lose. It was because of this reason that Fire Spirit did not want to make a move. He did not want to cause trouble. If he offended a giant like the Godly Sword Sect and brought disaster to the Taiyangomen, then he would be the eternal sinner of the Taiyangomen. At this point, the powerful Fire Spirit was actually forced back a step by Dao, who was weak in martial arts. Dao laughed coldly and asked, Fire Spirit, do you think this distance is not enough? Then I'll come closer and let you fight to your heart's content. As he spoke, Dao took another step forward and got even closer to Fire Spirit. Seeing Dao's fearless expression, Fire Spirit asked with a trembling voice, Dao, let's talk. Before Fire Spirit could finish, he was interrupted by Dao. Fire Spirit, what else do we have to talk about? Since you don't want to compensate me, then hurry up and make your move. Seeing Dao walk over again, Fire Spirit couldn't make up his mind and quickly turned to Shui Spirit, only to see that Shui Spirit was also looking over with a frown on her face, looking hesitant. Fire Spirit was anxious and his anger was rising. How dare a small fry like Silver Knife challenge him? Fire Spirit took another step back and could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He suddenly shouted, Dao, since you're like this, then don't blame me for being impolite. Seeing Fire Spirit so angry that his hair was tied up, if he took another step forward, he would have to endure his anger. Dao was stunned for a moment, but soon a sense of unwillingness appeared in his heart. This was his last chance. If he did not work hard and grab this chance, then he would spend his life in mediocrity. Perhaps it would not be easy to live in mediocrity. There were too many mediocre disciples in the Godly Sword Sect. Dao had seen too many of their endings, so he did not want to be a mediocre person. He wanted to succeed and become stronger. The reason why he was willing to come this time was not because he was brave, but because he was looking for an opportunity. Dao knew that it would be very dangerous this time, but he still came because he did not want to let go of any opportunity. The opportunity was right in front of him, but he could not grab it. However, the target was still very close to him. It was as if he only needed to jump up and grab the target. Dao would not let go of such a close target. If he did, then he would not have another chance. Thinking of this, Dao felt a surge of blood rush to his heart. It rushed to his brain and made him excited. Fire Spirit was not far away. Dao suddenly shouted, "Fire Spirit, use your strongest attack." Chapter 484. Dao's angry roar actually scared the Fire Spirit. After he reacted, the Fire Spirit was really angry. The Fire Spirit was not a good-tempered person. When had he ever been forced to this point? Seeing Dao take another step forward, the Fire Spirit snorted coldly. He slowly clenched his right fist. At the same time, he slowly took a step forward with his left foot. He was ready to use force. The Fire Spirit's two actions seemed to take a long time, but it actually happened in the blink of an eye. The Fire Spirit roared. His body suddenly turned into an afterimage as he threw a punch at Dao. When Dao saw the power of this fist, he was also shocked. However, he also understood that even if he wanted to dodge, he would not be able to. The Fire Spirit's martial arts were much higher than his. Even if there were 30 or 50 Dao, they would not be a match for the Fire Spirit. Without any hesitation, the Fire Spirit sent the silver saber flying far away with a single punch. Dao, brat, let's see if you still dare to be so arrogant. The Fire Spirit scolded as he walked towards Dao, who had already landed on the ground. The moment Dao landed on the ground, he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, and he frowned deeply. Dao wiped the corner of his mouth and looked up at the Fire Spirit. He coldly said, "Fire Spirit, your martial arts are not good enough. I'm so close to you, and you still haven't succeeded. What a failure." Seeing that Dao was still provoking him, the Fire Spirit took a step forward and suddenly kicked Dao away again. The power of a fist was naturally not as strong as a kick. The moment the Fire Spirit kicked Silver Knife, he heard a crisp sound followed by a Silver Knife scream. The Fire Spirit knew that Silver Knife's arm must have been broken. Just as Fire Spirit had guessed, after the silver blade fell to the ground, his brows furrowed even tighter. The pain caused his expression to become twisted. When he stood up again, he could only use his right arm to support himself. His left arm was dragging on the ground without any strength. Seeing this, the Fire Spirit suddenly felt extremely carefree. After letting this brat be so arrogant for so long, he finally got rid of the hatred in his heart. The tyrannical emotions in the Fire Spirit Z's heart were also dispelled by this field. Fire Spirit walked in front of Dao and asked coldly, "Dao, brat, you will know how powerful I am." Cough, cough. Silver Knife wanted to answer, but he was stopped by a violent coughing sound. After the coughing stopped, Silver Knife spat out another mouthful of blood. Dao took a deep breath and grasped the uncomfortable feeling in his heart. Only then did he raise his head to look at Fire Spirit in front of him and laugh. "Fire Spirit, you cough? Your martial arts aren't that good. Cough, cough. Your strength is too weak." Cough, cough. I think you should go back and train for a few more years. Cough, cough. Don't come here and embarrass yourself. Cough, cough, cough. Seeing that Dao was seriously injured and still dared to take the blame for him, the Fire Spirit roared angrily. Then, he threw a kick at Dao. Fire Spirit's martial arts were much higher than Dao's. Even if Dao wasn't injured, he wouldn't be able to dodge Fire Spirit's attack. Now that he was injured, he couldn't dodge. Fire Spirit kicked out, and the Silver Knife was kicked far away like a toy. In the air, Dao couldn't help but spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. When he landed on the ground, he felt his vision turn black. His body was in so much pain that he couldn't help but scream again. Fire Spirit slowly walked in front of Dao and asked in a low voice, "Dao, brat, do you admit defeat?" "Pooh." Fire Spirit's reply was Dao's pooh. Dao couldn't get up anymore. He could only lie there and look up at Fire Spirit, who was walking towards him. After panting for a while, Dao laughed coldly and said, "Cough, cough, fire spirit, cough, cough, your strength is still too weak. Cough, cough." Before Dao could finish, he was interrupted by a violent coughing sound. At this time, Water Spirit also came to Fire Spirit's side. She looked down at Dao and sighed. "Brother Dao, why do you have to do this?" Dao wanted to answer, but his throat was blocked. He could only cough violently and couldn't say a complete sentence. Water Spirit nodded. "Brother Dao, I can tell you the truth. What you're doing is meaningless." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. Level 25 equipment is impossible to obtain. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Dao's eyes suddenly widened. He stared at Water Spirit and tried his best to speak. "Why, cough, cough, is it?" Water Spirit sighed. "Level 25 equipment isn't that easy to create. Not only us brothers don't have it, but even the Taiyangalmen only have one. Think about it. Would the Taiyangalmen give you one?" Dao shook his head. "I don't care. Cough, I just want level 25 equipment." Cough, cough. Water Spirit shook her head. "Brother Dao, it's good for people to have dreams, but dreams have to be realistic. Doing what you're doing will only harm yourself. You won't get anything." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. "Originally, I saw that you had dreams and that you were a promising person. I want to give you a level 15 equipment, but you're too greedy. You always want things that are impossible. Now, even if you're heavily injured, I'm afraid you won't even be able to get a level 15 equipment." Dao sneered. After resting for a while, his injuries had stabilized and he could speak without hindrance. "Water Spirit, don't scare me. If you're not afraid of the Godly Sword sect and the Taiyangalmen going to war, then you can kill me." Speaking up to here, Dao paused for a moment before continuing. "Anyway, my life is worthless and worthless. On the other hand, I'm afraid your Heaven's Craftsman faction won't be able to bear this responsibility. Once you infuriate the Godly Knife faction, I'm afraid your Heaven's Craftsman faction will be destroyed in an instant. Water Spirit, I advise you to think about it. If you don't want the Taiyangalmen to go to war with the Godly Sword sect, then agree to my conditions." Water Spirit looked deeply at Dao, then shook her head. "Brother Dao, have you ever thought about it? Since the Godly Sword sect is stronger than the Taiyangalmen, then why hasn't the Godly Sword sect attacked the Taiyangalmen for so many years?" Hearing Water Spirit's words, Dao was stunned. A trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Why? In the Godly Blade School, Dao was only a small character. Even Golden Dao, who was important in Dao's eyes, was also an unimportant character in the Godly Blade School. From this, one could imagine how unimportant Dao's position in the Godly Blade School was. With Dao's position, how could he know the problem? Dao did not know. Chapter 485. Silver Knife didn't know, but Water Spirit definitely knew. Shui Lingzi let out a sigh. "Brother Dao, I won't tell you the reason. I only want to tell you one thing. That is, even if you're hung here today, it won't cause a war between the Godly Blade sect and the Heaven's Craftsman faction." "Nonsense." Cough, cough. As soon as Water Spirit finished speaking, Silver Knife shouted, but because he shouted too fiercely, it caused another round of violent coughing. After this round of coughing, Silver Knife shouted, "Water Spirit, you're talking nonsense. If you dare to touch me today, you can just wait for the Godly Knife sect and the Taiyangalmen to start a war." Water Spirit looked at Silver Knife with pity. "I thought you were an ambitious young man, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid. Why would I lie to you? If it was like what you said, the Taiyangalmen would have been destroyed by the Godly Knife sect, but now everyone is safe and sound. Don't you understand?" Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. "Brother Silver Knife, don't do anything stupid." Silver Knife suddenly laughed coldly. "Water Spirit, you think I'm doing something stupid?" Water Spirit shook her head. "Isn't it so? You know you can't get something, but you still want it. If this isn't stupid, then what is?" Cough, cough. After coughing for a while, Silver Knife looked at Water Spirit and slowly said, "Water Spirit, maybe you think I'm doing something stupid, but I think this is my chance, my only chance. If I succeed and get a level 25 equipment, then my life will change. Speaking up to here, Silver Knife's tone suddenly stopped, and then he said self-deprecatingly, "Actually, even if I fail, it doesn't matter. I don't have any hope in my life. Even if I fail, at least I tried, so I won't regret it." Hearing Silver Knife's words, Water Spirit sighed. After a while, she slowly said, "Brother Silver Knife, if you're willing, then my offer still stands. I'll give you a level 15 equipment. What do you think?" Silver Knife shook his head. "It's useless. It's just a level 15 equipment. It's useless." Hearing this, Water Spirit sighed. "Brother Dao, if you're still so greedy, then I have nothing to say." Dao struggled to sit up, causing another round of violent coughing. After the coughing subsided, he slowly said, "Level 25 equipment. Only by obtaining level 25 equipment can I change my life. Other than these, I have nothing else to ask for." At this point, Dao paused. He turned to look at Fire Spirit and smiled. "Fire Spirit, I'm guessing that you don't dare to be heavy-handed with me. You only dare to injure me." After hearing Dao's words, Fire Spirit's expression changed. He really did not dare to use too much force. If he dared to use too much force, he would only need one punch to turn Silver Knife into a pulp. Although the Godly Knife clan and the Tiangomen would not start a war because of the Silver Knife, it was still not a good thing. No matter what, Dao was a member of the Godly Knife clan. If Fire Spirit really killed Dao, then even if both sides were at peace, it would still be a troublesome matter. Most importantly, there were not only people from the Tiangomen and the Godly Knife clan, but also people from the Wu clan and the Shadowless clan. Fire Spirit was very sure that if he dared to kill Dao today, then the Godly Knife clan would know about it tomorrow. Seeing Fire Spirit frowning and not saying anything, Dao suddenly laughed coldly. "Fire Spirit, you really are not a man. You actually use so many punches to deal with someone like me, and I'm still fine. I think your martial arts are really bad." Hearing this, Fire Spirit's anger that had calmed down began to boil again. He was not a good-tempered person to begin with, and after being provoked by Dao, he could not hold it in anymore and roared. "Since it's like this, then I'll risk being punished by the clan leader and kill you first." As he spoke, Fire Spirit clenched his fist again and smashed it towards Dao. Fire Spirit's body was like lightning, and his fist was like the wind. With a thought, his fist smashed forward like lightning. At this time, a fist appeared in front of him and blocked his attack. Fire Spirit exclaimed, "Big brother, why did you block me?" Water Spirit slowly took back her fist and shook her head. "Fire Spirit, back off first. I have my own plans for this." Fire Spirit could only glare at Dao and back off to the side. Water Spirit took a deep breath and turned to look at Silverblade, asking in a deep voice, "Brother Silverblade, tell me your conditions. Besides that level 25 equipment, can you think of any other conditions that can replace that level 25 equipment?" Dao shook his head. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he looked at Water Spirit. "Water Spirit, if you don't want to give me level 25 equipment, that's fine. As long as you can make the Godly Knife Clan leader accept me as a disciple, then I won't ask for level 25 equipment from you." After hearing Dao's conditions, Water Spirit was stunned for a while before shaking her head. "I can't help you with this condition." Dao sighed. "Then I can only ask for level 25 equipment. I think that as long as I give this level 25 equipment to the Godly Knife Clan leader, he will definitely accept me as a disciple." Water Spirit sighed and sincerely said, "Brother Dao, you're crazy. You're really crazy. Don't you understand that even if you die here, it won't affect the relationship between our two clans? Don't you understand what I'm saying?" Dao shook his head and sneered. "Water Spirit, don't lie to me. If it's as simple as you say, and it won't affect the relationship between the Godly Knife Clan and the Tiangomen, then you would have already done it. Why would you still be here talking nonsense with me?" Hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi was really angry. What was a little Dao? Even if he died, it would only be a small problem. If she didn't pity him, then she wouldn't have talked to him for so long. Water Spirit's talent in martial arts wasn't that high, but his forging skills were very high. That was why he was able to slowly get to where he was today. Water Spirit knew the difficulty of this. When he saw Yin Dao, it was as if he saw himself in the past. That kind of hesitation, that kind of helplessness, that kind of desire to be recognized by others was so strong. During that time, what he needed the most was someone to help him. Water Spirit's luck was very good. Of course, it was also related to his hard work. In the Tiangongmen, sometimes it wasn't just martial arts that was high, but also skills. Forging skills were the absolute truth. Water Spirit's forging skills were very high, so he was able to obtain the guidance of an expert. After his hard work, he was able to get to where he was today. Chapter 486. For Water Spirit to have his current position, it was definitely related to his hard work. Yin Dao was also like that. He also wanted to succeed. Water Spirit understood Yin Dao's thoughts. He wanted to help him succeed. But Water Spirit wasn't omnipotent. Even if he wanted to help Yin Dao, he could only help within his ability. Yin Dao's requirements were too high. Level 25 equipment. This was already beyond Water Spirit's ability. Even level 20 equipment was difficult for Water Spirit, let alone level 25 equipment. Looking at Yin Dao on the ground, Water Spirit's heart was filled with sorrow. A young man who wanted to succeed could also be said to be a young man with wishful thinking. Water Spirit didn't know if he should sympathize or despise him. It was good for people to have dreams, but the road to one's dreams wasn't like this. Back then, Shui Lingzi was also as unknown as Yin Dao, and her talent in martial arts was also not very high, but the path that Shui Lingzi chose was absolutely different from Yin Dao's. Yin Dao wanted instant benefits. He wanted to reach the heavens in a single step and become the disciple of the godly knife sect's leader. But Shui Lingzi was different. She knew exactly what she had to do to win that future. Water Spirit diligently cultivated his martial arts. At the same time, he also practiced his manufacturing techniques. Water Spirit had always been waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a chance to make him famous. Reality proved that his luck wasn't bad. 5 years after he entered the sect, the Tiangongmen held a competition for inner disciples. Whether it was martial arts or manufacturing, Water Spirit's talent wasn't the highest, but he worked very hard and cultivated very seriously. In this competition, a total of 80 disciples participated, and Water Spirit was ranked 11th. He didn't even enter the top 10. However, even though he didn't make it into the top 10, Water Spirit still had some schemes in mind. He chose to make a very unpopular equipment. This kind of technique he had been diligently practicing. The time he spent on it far surpassed the time he spent on those popular equipment. Because of this, even though Water Spirit was ranked 11th and didn't enter the top 10, he was still put in an important position. This was because the development of a sect couldn't only rely on one product, so Water Spirit's research direction was supported. From then on, Water Spirit's luck gradually increased, and after so many years, he finally reached his current position. Shui Lingzi was very clear that if he hadn't chosen that unpopular equipment, he definitely wouldn't have been ranked 11th. That was because his crafting skills weren't very high at that time. Even if he had made other equipment, his final ranking would probably have been below the 30th rank. This was an opportunity, and also an opportunity. Water Spirit used his own wisdom and judgment to seize this opportunity and win a future for himself. Thinking about his past, Water Spirit felt a mix of emotions, but at the same time, he was also very proud. But looking at the heavily injured Yin Dao in front of her, Shui Lingzi was filled with anger and hatred. Silver Knife was delusional to think that he could rely on a piece of level 25 equipment to reach the heavens in a single bound. This was simply a dream. Water Spirit was very clear that even if Yin Dao had a level 25 equipment, he wouldn't have any future because he didn't know how to win his own future. Thinking about this, Water Spirit sighed. Brother Yin Dao, don't you understand that what you're doing is meaningless? Besides hurting yourself, you won't succeed. Even if you have level 25 equipment, you still won't succeed. Yin Dao bitterly smiled and shook his head. Impossible. You're lying to me. If I had level 25 equipment, I would definitely be accepted as a disciple by the godly knife sect leader. Hearing Dao's reply, Water Spirit suddenly sneered. Dao, let me ask you, even if the godly knife sect leader accepts you as a disciple, so what? Hearing this, Dao laughed. As long as the godly knife sect leader accepts me as a disciple, with his guidance, my martial arts will improve very quickly. At that time, as long as my martial arts are high, my position in the godly knife sect will also be high. Water's Spirit sneered. Dao, do you think that the godly knife sect leader only has you as a disciple? Speaking up to this point, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. Moreover, your talent isn't very high. When the godly knife sect leader accepts a disciple, he will definitely choose someone with excellent talent as his disciple. In front of these geniuses, can you stand out? If you can't, then what future do you have? Won't you still be unknown? Water Spirit suddenly sighed. Actually, this isn't good for you. In front of geniuses, you will always be the target of ridicule. This is not good for your cultivation in the future. It will destroy your self-confidence and make your self-confidence disappear after being ridiculed again and again. At that time, you will never be able to stand up again. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Dao was stunned for a moment before suddenly shouting, You're lying to me. You must be lying to me. You don't want to give me level 25 equipment. That's why you're lying to me. Speaking up to this point, Dao paused for a moment before continuing, Water Spirit, you can't lie to me. Water Spirit shook her head. Brother Dao, I've already done my best. Since you're so stubborn, then I can't do anything about it. Dao sneered. Water Spirit, what do you want? Water Spirit sighed. Brother Dao, I don't want to do anything. I just want to tell you that you're not important. Even in the eyes of the godly knife sect, you're not important. Even if you die today, I'm afraid that no one will remember you tomorrow. Hearing this, Dao suddenly sneered, I don't believe you. Seeing that Dao was still stubborn, Water Spirit sighed and took a step back. Then she suddenly looked up at the people behind Dao and loudly asked, Which one of you is the leader here? When the people behind Dao heard Water Spirit's question, they subconsciously looked at Dao and then shook their heads. Seeing these people shake their heads, Water Spirit shouted again, You heard it just now. Dao ignored the friendship between the Tiangongmen and the godly knife sect and blackmailed the godly knife sect. Because of this, he was seriously injured. When you go back, you must explain this matter. Before Shui Lingzi could finish her words, from behind these black-robed men, two people also wearing black robes walked out. Seeing these two people, Shui Lingzi subconsciously couldn't say what she wanted to say. When these two black people came in front of everyone, the one on the left suddenly laughed a few times and then cupped his fist towards Water Spirit. Water Spirit, I didn't expect your memory to be so bad. You even forgot an old friend. Hearing this voice, Dao's face suddenly changed. He quickly turned his head and spoke with a trembling voice. Chapter 487. Dao said with a trembling voice, This subordinate greets the two protectors. The black-clothed man waved his hand at Dao. Very good, you did well. I am very satisfied. After saying this, the black-clothed man turned to Shui Lingzi and said with a sneer, Shui Lingzi, you injured our godly blade sex people. How do you want to deal with it? When the two black-clothed men came to the front, Shui Lingzi immediately recognized who they were. They were the protectors of godly blade sect, Li Ming Shui and Li Ming Shan. The martial arts of the Li brothers were not something a small Dao could compare with. Even Shui Lingzi did not dare to look down on them. So, it's the Li brothers of godly blade sect. I wonder why you came here today? Li Ming Shan smiled. Shui Lingzi, don't tell me you don't welcome us? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Of course I welcome you, but I don't know why you came here today. Li Shan turned his head to look at Dao, then turned his head to Shui Lingzi and said with a sneer, Shui Lingzi, I think you're just saying one thing and thinking another. You should be saying that you don't welcome us brothers. Shui Lingzi heard this. Her face suddenly changed. Then she smiled and said, What are you talking about? This is not my place. If you brothers want to come, I have no reason to stop you. Li Mingshan sneered. We brothers are here, so you can't recklessly injure our godly blade sect's disciples. Isn't this a bit regretful? Before Shui Lingzi could answer, Li Mingshui also sneered. Shui Lingzi, you guys are quite awe-inspiring. You clearly know that they are our godly blade sex people, but you still want to kill them. If we brothers didn't arrive in time, I'm afraid all of us here would have been killed by you too. Hearing the words of the two, Shui Lingzi secretly complained in her heart. She knew that the Li brothers definitely did not have good intentions. The black-robed men just stood there and didn't move. Shui Lingzi found it strange. Why would they just calmly stand there and watch as their leader was beaten up by others? Now Shui Lingzi understood why those black-robed men didn't come forward to help. It turned out that Yin Dao wasn't their real leader, but the Li brothers who were standing behind them. Shui Lingzi had been wondering why the godly sword sect would send such a weak opponent like Yin Dao when they were so powerful. Now she understood that their experts had been hiding behind the crowd. What gave Shui Lingzi a headache wasn't just the appearance of the Li brothers, but another problem. Yin Dao was heavily injured by Fire Spirit. It wasn't from a single punch. Fire Spirit had to attack several times before he was able to heavily injure Yin Dao. Even so, the Li brothers did not appear. Only in the end did the Li brothers appear. What did this mean? It meant that the Li brothers had been waiting for this opportunity. Silverknife had just asked Water Spirit for level 25 equipment. Perhaps the Li brothers also harbored such thoughts after hearing this news. Silverblade wanted level 25 equipment from Water Spirit, but this wasn't a big deal. Silverblade's martial arts weren't good enough, and Water Spirit could deal with him with a single finger. But the Li brothers weren't good enough. As the protectors of the godly sword sect, their martial arts were naturally very high. It would be impossible to bully them like how they bullied Yin Dao. If that was the case, then the level 25 equipment that Yin Dao wanted. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi felt a splitting headache. If the Li brothers really had such a goal, then today's matter would be very difficult to solve. Seeing Shui Lingzi lowering her head and not speaking, Li Mingshan suddenly sneered. Shui Lingzi, I know what you're thinking. Are you thinking of how to fool them? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi was even more certain that the Li brothers had such a goal. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled. What are you talking about? You saw it yourself. If he wasn't pressuring us, why would we have made a move? Li Mingshui suddenly stepped forward and loudly said, Shui Lingzi, no matter how many excuses you have, Yin Dao has already been heavily injured by you. What do you think we should do? Seeing that the Li brothers were questioning him, Fire Spirit couldn't hold in anymore and shouted, That brat Yin Dao was injured by me. If you have any problems, come find me. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Li Mingshui sneered. Fire Spirit, of course you're not afraid of me. Speaking of this, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing. But do you think I'm afraid of you? Hearing this, Fire Spirit immediately laughed. If that's the case, then let's have a competition and see who's afraid of who. Li Mingshui sneered. Okay, then let's have a competition and see who's the coward. Fire Spirit had a fiery temper. Hearing this, he immediately stepped forward and punched out with his right fist towards Li Mingshui. As the protector of the godly sword sect, Li Mingshui naturally wasn't afraid of Fire Spirit. Seeing that Fire Spirit's attack was about to reach him, he sneered and immediately punched out towards Fire Spirit's fist. Pa! Two whistling fists collided with each other, producing a dull sound. After the sound passed, the two of them were shaken back a few steps by the force of the impact. Fire Spirit took 3 steps back before stabilizing himself. Li Mingshui, I don't think you're that strong. You can't even take one of my punches, and you still dare to brag. Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshui was instantly furious. Fire Spirit had been forced back 3 steps, but Li Mingshui had been forced back 4 steps. It was clear that Li Mingshui had been defeated in this exchange. Although Li Mingshui was at a disadvantage, he wasn't afraid. Because he was from the godly sword sect, and his martial arts were all based on his sword. Li Mingshui snorted and reached for the sword behind him. Fire spirit, you're not bad. Since you want to see it, then I'll let you see my real martial arts. Following Li Mingshui's words, a shiny steel sword was slowly pulled out and appeared in front of the two of them. Under the moonlight, the steel sword shone with a cold light. As it trembled, it constantly reflected light and shone in all directions. Seeing Li Mingshui take out his weapon, Fire Spirit was shocked. He naturally knew that the godly sword sect's strongest point wasn't their fists but their sword techniques. Seeing Fire Spirit's change of expression, Li Mingshui suddenly sneered and pointed his sword at Fire Spirit. Are you afraid? Fire Spirit's eyes widened as he stared at Li Mingshui and said angrily, I, Fire Spirit, am afraid of you? What a joke. Li Mingshui sneered, since you're not afraid, then I'll beat you until you're afraid. Don't talk big. Come at me if you can. We still don't know who's the coward. Although Fire Spirit replied casually, his heart wasn't relaxed at all. Chapter 488. Li Mingshui slowly moved, and at the same time, his powerful internal force began to circulate. At this time, Li Mingshan suddenly reached out and stopped him. He turned to look at Shui Lingzi and sneered. Shui Lingzi, do you really want to be enemies with our godly sword sect? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi was shocked. He quickly turned to Fire Spirit and said, Why aren't you moving back? Hearing this, Fire Spirit retreated to the side resentfully. Seeing Fire Spirit move back, Shui Lingzi cupped his fist and said, Today, we have offended you. Please allow us brothers to come and apologize in the future. Today, we really have something to do. Please forgive us, brothers. Li Mingshan sighed. I really want to forgive you, but our sect's disciple, Yin Dao, may not want to forgive you. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but grit his teeth and clench his fists tightly. He completely understood Li Mingshui's meaning. At this moment, Shui Lingzi suddenly had the thought of not caring about this matter and immediately leaving. Today, other than himself, the other three factions that came were not easy opponents. He had already promised the Wu clan 2 level 20 equipment and 2 level 20 equipment from Shadowless. Now that the Godly Sword sect was here, 2 level 20 equipment was not enough to satisfy them. Level 25 equipment was something that Shui Lingzi would never agree to. A level 25 equipment, in terms of value, was far more valuable than 6 level 20 equipment. How could he give away such rare equipment just like that? Thinking about this, Shui Lingzi wanted to immediately leave and not care about this matter. But as soon as this thought appeared, it was quickly extinguished. If he really didn't care about this matter, then what if Kikyaman was taken away by someone else, and the secret was true? What should he do then? This thought kept lingering in Shui Lingzi's mind, making him in a dilemma. Should he immediately leave this place, or should he choose to stay and negotiate with the people here? After a long time, Shui Lingzi sighed. He chose to stay and negotiate with these despicable people. If the secret was true, then the Tiangongmen were finished. If the Tiangongmen were finished, then he, Shui Lingzi, was also finished. Thinking about this, Shui Lingzi could only sigh and continue to negotiate with these despicable people. Shui Lingzi lightly coughed, then looked up at Li Mingshan and slowly said, Since today's matter has already happened, then what do you all say? What should we do? Li Mingshan coldly laughed. Since you dare to hit our Godly Sword sect's people, then you don't put us in your eyes, and now you dare to ask me what to do? Shui Lingzi, I want to ask you, what do you want to do? Water Spirit shook her head. You saw what happened just now. If it weren't for Yin Dao going too far, we wouldn't have made a move. Li Shan shook his head. I don't care about those things. I only saw you beating up our Godly Knife sect's disciples. Other than that, I didn't see anything else. Li Mingshans, you used to you did you Tim? You he threatened. You, Mingshan time. Mingshans you, Li Mingshan shook his head. I'm sorry, I really didn't hear that. I only saw you beating him up. Nothing else happened. Fire Spirit angrily roared. If that's the case, then I'll just take care of him, so that he won't harm others. Fire Spirit had a fiery temper, and as soon as his voice fell, he rushed towards Mingshan. Shui Lingzi, seeing this, quickly reached out to stop him. After Fire Spirit pulled her back, she lowered her voice and said, "Fire Spirit, don't be rash. After we solve this problem, we'll think of a way to deal with him." After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Fire Spirit angrily nodded and lowered his head, no longer speaking. Li Mingshan on the side suddenly clapped his hands and coldly laughed. "Fire Spirit, do you think that as long as you kill Mingshan, this matter will be over?" Fire Spirit's anger, which had just been extinguished, was immediately ignited by Li Mingshan. "Li Mingshan, what do you want if you don't agree? Then let's fight." Li Mingshan shook his head. "Why would I fight with you? Right now, you Tai and Gongmen are bullying my godly sword sect. I just want to be the judge. I don't want to fight with you." Fire Spirit suddenly laughed out loud. "You want to be the judge? Fine, then let's be the judge." At this point, the Fire Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. Dao blackmailed the Heaven's Craftsman sect in an attempt to cause a war between the Godly Blade sect and the Heaven's Craftsman sect. Is there anything wrong with me hitting him? After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshan didn't answer. Instead, he turned to look at Mingshan and softly asked, "Mingshan, is Fire Spirit right? Were you trying to blackmail the Tai Gongmen?" Hearing the Protector's question, Mingshan didn't dare to hesitate and quickly shook his head. "No, I didn't blackmail the Tai Gongmen." After hearing Mingshan's answer, Li Mingshan turned to look at Fire Spirit and sneered. "Fire Spirit, you heard it too, right? Mingshan didn't blackmail the Tai Gongmen?" Fire Spirit said angrily. "Was it not blackmail when he asked for level 25 equipment?" Li Mingshan turned to look at Mingshan again and sternly asked, "Mingshan, is this true? You actually dared to ask the Tai Gongmen for level 25 equipment? Is this true?" Hearing Li Mingshan's stern question, Silver Knife was suddenly startled. He hurriedly replied in a low voice, "No, this disciple doesn't. The reason this disciple wants level 25 equipment is because they injured this disciple. This disciple wants this level 25 equipment as compensation." Hearing Mingshan's answer, Li Mingshan nodded and turned to look at Fire Spirit again. "Fire Spirit, you heard it, right? The level 25 equipment was used as compensation for injuring him. It wasn't like you said, asking for it from the Tai Gongmen." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Fire Spirit was furious. "What's the difference? If it wasn't asking for it from us, then what was it?" Hearing Fire Spirit's angry roar, Li Mingshan suddenly sighed. "You guys seriously injured him. I think you guys should compensate him. I think you guys should compensate him." Fire Spirit said angrily, "Even if it's compensation, it shouldn't be level 25 equipment." Li Mingshan turned to look at Fire Spirit. After a while, he suddenly asked seriously, "Fire Spirit, do you think that our Godly Knife faction's disciple shouldn't be compensated by you guys?" Fire Spirit sneered. "Li Mingshan, don't tell me you don't know how precious level 25 equipment is. Do you think he can get level 25 equipment with his injuries? Don't you think that's ridiculous?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshan shook his head. Chapter 489. Li Shan sneered. "Fire Spirit, are you saying that our Godly Knife faction is worthless?" After hearing Li Shan's words, Fire Spirit angrily retorted, "Li Shan, when did I say that? I only said that Silver Blade's injuries cannot be compensated with a piece of level 25 equipment. I didn't say that your Godly Blade faction's members are worthless." After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshan's eyes suddenly narrowed as he coldly stared at Fire Spirit. After a while, he spoke in a soft voice. After a while, he softly said, "Fire Spirit, are you saying that Silver Knife's injuries aren't serious enough?" Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing, "If you think that Silver Knife's injuries aren't serious enough, then it's fine. You can punch him a few more times until you are satisfied." Hearing Li Shan's words, Fire Spirit angrily roared, "Li Shan, you're talking nonsense. How about this? If that's the case, then you punch me twice and give me a level 25 equipment. What do you think? Li Shan shook his head. It's not me punching you, it's you punching Silverknife. Before I came, you had already heavily injured him. Speaking up to here, Li Shan turned his head to look at Silverknife and said softly, Silverknife's injuries are very serious. I'm afraid that his internal organs have already been damaged. If we don't hurry and treat him, even if we save him, his vitality will be greatly damaged. In terms of martial arts, it will be impossible for him to progress any further. Hearing Li Shan's indifferent tone, Fire Spirit angrily said, Li Shan, since you know that Silverknife's injuries are very serious, why don't you hurry and treat him? Do you want to wait for his injuries to worsen before you treat him? Li Shan shook his head. You're wrong. The one who injured him is you, not me. Even if we want to save Silverknife, we need you to do it. This time, before Fire Spirit could speak, Water Spirit spoke first. If that's the case, then let's hurry and treat Silverknife. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Shan faintly smiled and gave Li Mingxue a look. Li Mingxue understood, and the two immediately took a few steps back. Water Spirit, then you go and save him. Water Spirit nodded and quickly walked over to Yin Dao. Seeing Shui Lingzi walk over, Yin Dao hesitated. He heard Li Mingshan's words just now. He knew that he was seriously injured, but he didn't expect it to be so serious. According to Li Shan, if he didn't take the time to treat it, then his martial arts would never improve. The reason why Yin Dao was hesitant was because he still had a trace of hope in his heart. Level 25 equipment. If Water Spirit were to treat his injuries, he wouldn't be able to get any compensation. But if he didn't let Shui Lingzi treat his injuries, then what if it really was like Li Shan said, and his martial arts would forever stagnate? What would he do then? The reason why Silverknife was willing to be heavily injured by Fire Spirit was because he wanted Fire Spirit to compensate him for his level 25 equipment. With this level 25 equipment, he could embark on another glorious journey in his life. If Water Spirit treated his injuries, then he would no longer have the chance to become a disciple of the godly knife sex patriarch. Seeing Shui Lingzi walk closer and closer, Yin Dao fiercely clenched his teeth and suddenly shouted, Water Spirit, stop! If you don't compensate me for my equipment, then don't treat my injuries. Hearing Yin Dao's shout, Shui Lingzi secretly sighed. Although he was angry, the smile on his face didn't weaken at all. Brother Yin Dao, your injuries are very serious. If you don't take the time to treat it, I'm afraid it will greatly damage your cultivation in the future. Let's talk about other things later. Let's treat your injuries first. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao suddenly sneered. Shui Lingzi, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Do you think that as long as you treat my injuries, you won't need to compensate me for my equipment? Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing. Shui Lingzi, let me tell you, that's impossible. Since you dared to heavily injure me, then you must compensate me. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Shui Lingzi's footsteps stopped. He never thought that, even though Yin Dao had clearly heard Li Shan's words, he still refused to treat his injuries. Shui Lingzi really did want to treat Yin Dao's injuries. Then, the level 25 equipment would naturally be left untouched. But now it seemed that this plan had failed. As long as Yin Dao didn't agree to treat his injuries, then this matter would never be resolved. Thinking up to here, Fire Spirit suppressed his anger and looked up at Yin Dao. He smiled and said, Brother Yin Dao, your injuries are very serious. If you don't take the time to treat them, I'm afraid you'll never be able to reach Yin Dao's level. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Perhaps, if your injuries are too serious, not only will you not be able to surpass Yin Dao's level, your martial arts will also weaken. You have to think about it carefully. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao's face couldn't help but change. After a while, cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The cold sweat on his forehead wasn't because of the deep injuries, but because Yin Dao knew that what Shui Lingzi said was true. Cultivating martial arts was like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you'll fall behind. Yin Dao was very clear about this. Although Yin Dao was very clear about this, it didn't mean that he would do it. After Li Shan and Li Mingxue arrived, Yin Dao had been secretly observing them. He wanted to know their thoughts. Now, Yin Dao was very clear about Li Shan and Li Mingxue's thoughts. Their thoughts were the same as his, which was to obtain the level 25 equipment. Thinking up to here, Yin Dao once again hardened his heart. Even if he would be crippled in the future, he would still fight this time. At first, his strength wasn't enough, and he was beaten everywhere. But with the support of Li Shan and Li Mingxue, Yin Dao believed that he would definitely be able to obtain the level 25 equipment. Thinking about the benefits that level 25 equipment would bring him, Yin Dao decided to fight and make his life even more glorious in the future. Yin Dao looked at Shui Lingzi and suddenly sighed. Shui Lingzi, I advise you to save your strength. I think what you should do right now is to think about how to take out a level 25 equipment as compensation. Shui Lingzi shook her head. We have level 25 equipment, but the Tiangongmen also don't have level 25 equipment. So, I asked Brother Yin Dao to quickly heal your injuries. As soon as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, before Yin Dao could speak, Li Shan suddenly sneered and said, Shui Lingzi, don't talk nonsense. Since your Yin Dao is willing to let you heal his injuries, you should do as he said and think about how to compensate for the equipment. Shui Lingzi turned her head to look at Li Mingshan and asked, emphasizing each word. Chapter 490. Water Spirit asked, Li Mingshan, do you really think that I should compensate you with a level 25 equipment? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshan paused for a moment, then nodded. Although Yin Dao's martial arts aren't good enough, he is still a disciple of our Godly Blade sect. Moreover, he is the leader of the Godly Blade sect. This means that we value him a lot. Our Godly Blade sect's proud disciple was heavily injured by you. Is there anything wrong with compensating us? Water Spirit shook her head. We did injure Yin Dao, so we should compensate, but a level 25 equipment? Isn't that a bit too much? After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingxue, who hadn't spoken until now, suddenly sneered and said, Shui Lingzi, since you don't want to compensate, then I'll also punch you a few times. That way we'll be even, you don't need to compensate. Speaking up to here, Li Mingxue paused for a moment before continuing. Water Spirit, my condition is fair, right? Hearing Li Mingxue's words, Water Spirit was about to reply, but Fire Spirit suddenly stepped forward and said, Li Mingxue, you said it yourself. As long as you hit back, this matter will be over, right? Li Mingxue nodded. All right, I'll keep my word. You punched Yin Dao a few times, then I'll punch you a few times. This matter will be over, and our Godly Blade sect will not pursue this matter. Hearing Li Mingxue's words, Fire Spirit suddenly laughed. Good. Since it's like this, then I'll let you punch me a few times. Hearing the conversation between the two of them, Shui Lingzi was shocked. When Fire Spirit hit Yin Dao, he didn't dare to use too much strength. What if Li Mingxue secretly killed the Fire Spirit when he was fighting it? What if the Fire Spirit was crippled? If it was someone else, Water Spirit might have to consider whether this matter was feasible or not, but Fire Spirit was definitely out of the question. No, I don't agree. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingxue sneered and looked at Fire Spirit. He shrugged and helplessly said, Fire Spirit, as you can see, it's not that I don't want to give you a chance, but that Water Spirit doesn't want it. Don't blame us. Hearing this, Fire Spirit quickly turned to Water Spirit and said, Big brother, just let him hit me a few times, so what? At this point, the Fire Spirit paused before continuing. I believe that with Li Mingxue's martial arts, he won't be able to do anything to me even if he punches me a few times. Big brother, don't worry. Water Spirit shook her head and flatly refused. No, I won't allow it. Li Mingshan suddenly sneered and said, Shui Lingzi, I've already given you a chance, but since you don't want it, we can only use our previous plan. At this point, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. Water Spirit, hurry up and prepare a level 25 equipment. Hearing this, Shui Lingzi frowned again. If level 25 equipment was so easy to prepare, why would he waste so much time? Shui Lingzi thought for a moment before slowly saying, Li Mingshan, our Tai Gongmen and her godly knife sect have always had a good relationship. Why do you want to ruin the relationship between our two sects for such a small matter? Li Mingshan shook his head. Shui Lingzi, you're wrong. It's not me who wants to ruin the relationship between our two sects. It's you. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan pointed at Yin Dao and continued. Shui Lingzi, tell me, when Yin Dao first arrived, was he fine or not? Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and nodded. Li Mingshan sneered. Then it settled. Yin Dao arrived not long ago and was heavily injured by you. Once this matter spreads out, I'm afraid the one who will ruin the relationship between our two sects will be you, Shui Lingzi. At this point, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing. If one day the Tai Gongmen and the Godly Knife sect really go to war, then you, Shui Lingzi, will be the center of the Tai Gongmen, huh? Listening to Li Mingshan's unbridled laughter, Shui Lingzi's heart was filled with anger as she glared at Yin Dao. If it wasn't for this reckless fool, how could so many things have happened? It was all her fault for not being ruthless to him in the first place because of his ambition. Now, he had caused so much trouble for her. If she had immediately killed Yin Dao at the beginning, it would have just been an accident. Even so, it would be impossible to compensate the Godly Knife sect with a level 25 equipment. However, this was just a thought. If she wanted to do it now, Li Mingshan would definitely not agree. Maybe it would cause even more trouble. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi's heart became even more annoyed. Today's mission was just to take away Kikyaman's people, but who knew that it would cause so much trouble? Seeing that Shui Lingzi wasn't willing to answer, Li Mingshan sneered again. Shui Lingzi, even if you think about it, it's useless. The one who was injured is our Godly Knife sect's disciple. No matter what, you have to compensate him. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Fire Spirit suddenly shouted, Big brother, let them hit me a few times. We can't compensate that kid with equipment. Don't worry, it's just a few punches. They can't do anything to me. Hearing Fire Spirit shout, Li Mingshan sneered, Shui Lingzi, have you thought it through? Fire Spirit is getting impatient. Shui Lingzi sighed and slowly raised her head to look at Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan, since Yin Dao is injured, I can compensate him with a level 15 equipment. What do you think? Hearing Shui Lingzi's condition, Li Mingshan shook his head. No, a level 15 equipment is too weak compared to a level 25 equipment. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before asking, Shui Lingzi, if you were me, would you exchange it? Shui Lingzi shook her head and didn't answer Li Mingshan's question. She bitterly smiled and said, Li Mingshan, you've also bought equipment from the Tai Gongmen before. I don't think I've treated you badly. Can't we take a step back? What do you think? Li Mingshan shook his head. Nothing much. I only see us taking a big step back and you Tai Gongmen taking a big advantage. Other than that, I don't see anything else. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi secretly sighed. After a while, she slowly asked, other than level 25 equipment, do we have anything else to compensate? Li Mingshan shook his head and pointed at Yin Dao. He loudly said, Shui Lingzi, the equipment you're compensating isn't what I want. It's the injured Yin Dao that you want as compensation. If Yin Dao agrees with you using other methods to compensate, then I won't have any objections and won't cause trouble for you. After listening to Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi sighed. Chapter 491. Shui Lingzi sighed and turned to look at Yin Dao, asking in a soft voice, Brother Yin Dao, you heard what I said just now. I think we should heal your injuries first. Before Water Spirit could finish, she was interrupted by Yin Dao. Water Spirit, other than level 25 equipment, I don't want anything else. Don't say any more. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan sneered. Water Spirit, you heard it too. Yin Dao doesn't want to compensate you in other ways. You should think of a way to get level 25 equipment. Hearing this, The anger in Water Spirit's heart could no longer be suppressed. As a consecrator of the Heavenly Palace sect, she naturally had a lot of power in the Tyangomen. Every day, no one dared to talk to her like this. If it wasn't for completing this mission, she wouldn't be a pushover. Water Spirit suddenly turned to look at Dao lying on the ground. She clenched her fists and coldly asked, Dao, you really don't want to compensate you in other ways? Shui Lingzi's martial arts were powerful. Under his anger, a powerful pressure burst out from his body and rushed toward the silver saber from all directions. Seeing Shui Lingzi's aura, Dao was horrified. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. As Water Spirit got closer and closer, Dao's heartbeat sped up. Looking at Water Spirit in front of him, he felt as if a bone-eating demon beast was rushing towards him. Dao wanted to retreat, but this aura suppressed him so much that he couldn't even move. Even his wide-open mouth couldn't close. His entire being was left with only a terrified thought. Other than that, he couldn't control himself at all. Just as Silver Knife was panicking, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him without a sound. When this figure appeared in front of Dao immediately felt the terrifying pressure disappear. The emptiness after the terror made Dao gasp for breath. His whole body was soaked in cold sweat. After a while, Dao regained his consciousness. He found that the person standing in front of him was the protector of the Godly Sword sect, Li Shan. Li Shan and Water Spirit stared at each other for a while. At the same time, they sneered and the pressure slowly dissipated. Li Shan spoke first. Water Spirit, what do you want to do? Water Spirit shook her head. I don't want to do anything. I just want to see how Brother Dao's injuries are recovering. Li Shan sneered. Do you check other people's injuries using this method? Water Spirit sighed. No, it's only occasionally that I use this method to check. Li Shan shook his head. Water Spirit, your method isn't very good. Water Spirit sneered. If it wasn't for you blocking me, this method would have been very effective. Li Mingshan nodded. Is that so? It seems that you still blame me. I shouldn't have stopped you from checking your injuries. Water Spirit clenched her teeth and sneered. If you were reasonable, I wouldn't have used this method to check his injuries. Li Mingshan looked at Shui Lingzi, and after a long while, he suddenly sneered. Shui Lingzi, do you want to fight? Water Spirit sighed. If I had any other way, I wouldn't have chosen to do it. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, but if there is really no other way, then I can only choose to take action. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan nodded. So you don't have any other way, right? Water Spirit nodded. I definitely don't have level 25 equipment. Not only me, even the Tyangomen don't have it, so I really have no other way. Li Mingshan looked at Shui Lingzi and suddenly smiled. It seems we have no choice but to fight. Water Spirit nodded. If you insist, then we can only take action. Li Mingshan turned to look at Shui Lingzi. Do you think those two are our opponents? Shui Lingzi shook her head. I don't know. I've long heard that the Godly Saber Sect's protectors' martial arts are powerful, so I really want to experience it. Li Mingshan was silent for a moment before suddenly saying, Shui Lingzi, I also don't have confidence. Shui Lingzi nodded and suddenly smiled. Since we don't have confidence, doesn't that mean both of us have a chance of winning? Li Mingshan also nodded. Indeed, both of us have a chance of winning. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan's tone paused for a moment before continuing. But both of us have a chance of losing. Shui Lingzi sighed. Yes, if we really fight, neither of us have a chance of winning. Both of us have a chance of losing. Li Mingshan smiled. Since both of us have a chance of losing, then why should we fight? Shui Lingzi shook her head and bitterly smiled. I already said, if there is a way, I won't take action. Li Shan suddenly sighed. Could it be that we really have no other way? Shui Lingzi shook her head. If one of us is willing to take a step back, then there is a way. But if none of us is willing to take a step back, then there is no other way. Li Mingshan turned his head and looked at Shui Lingzi. Shui Lingzi, do you think I am afraid of you? Shui Lingzi shook her head. You are not afraid of me. Li Mingshan asked again. Do you think I can solve this matter? Shui Lingzi shook her head. I don't know. Li Mingshan smiled. You don't know, but I know. I am the protector of the Godly Knife sect, and Silver Knife is a disciple of the Godly Knife sect. As long as I, the protector of the Godly Knife sect, as a disciple of the Godly Knife sect, Silver Knife will definitely listen. Don't you think so? Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi's eyes suddenly lit up. Are you willing to say this? Li Mingshan shook his head and then nodded. Although I am the protector of the Godly Knife sect, and Silver Knife will definitely listen to my words, but I also think that level 15 equipment as compensation is too little. So, I can't say this, and I won't let the Godly Knife sect's disciples suffer a loss. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi nodded. In that case, what kind of conditions do you think will not let the Godly Knife sect's disciples suffer a loss? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan's face became dignified. He stretched out 2 fingers and slowly said, A level 20 equipment. I think the Godly Knife sect's disciple won't suffer a loss. Looking at Li Mingshan's fingers, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed. A level 20 equipment. The Godly Knife sect disciple won't suffer a loss, but don't you think that the Tiangongmen will suffer a big loss? Li Shanshan shook his head and said seriously, This is my way and my condition. If you don't agree to it, then... Chapter 492. Li Shanshan continued. If you don't agree, then pretend I didn't say anything. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Shui Lingzi clenched her fists even tighter. Although Li Shanshan's conditions were lowered, they were still very high. Level 20 equipment wasn't as common as cabbages, and it wasn't easy to forge a level 20 equipment. Moreover, the one who was injured was Yin Dao, an insignificant disciple of the Godly Knife faction. For an insignificant disciple to have to compensate with a piece of level 20 equipment, this was simply a joke. Therefore, Shui Lingzi absolutely couldn't agree. Even if it was a level 15 equipment compensation, it would be from his personal pocket. Otherwise, people would laugh at the Tiangongmen. Shui Lingzi looked at Li Shanshan, and after a while, she slowly said, What if I don't agree? Li Shanshan shook his head. I don't care about this matter as long as Yin Dao agrees. Speaking up to here, Li Shanshan paused for a moment before continuing, But if Yin Dao doesn't agree, then I'm sorry, but I won't agree either. Shui Lingzi suddenly sneered. Li Shanshan, do you think it's worth it to destroy the friendship between the Godly Knife faction and the Tiangongmen for a level 20 equipment? Li Shanshan shook his head. I will only protect the disciples of the Godly Knife faction from harm. As for other matters, I don't care. Hearing this, Water Spirit slowly stepped forward and softly said, Li Mingshan, I'll say this for the last time. My condition is a level 15 equipment, and this matter is over. If you have any other conditions, then forgive me for not being able to agree. Li Shanshan heard this and sneered. Then I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to boast here. Shui Lingzi shook her head. This is not boasting. This is helplessness. Your Godly Knife faction has gone too far. Even if this spread out, it would be your Godly Knife faction being unrighteous. As soon as Water Spirit's voice fell, before Li Mingshan could reply, Silver Knife suddenly roared. No, level 20 equipment, I won't agree. After hearing Silver Knife's words, Li Mingshan shook his head slightly. Then, he turned to Shui Lingzi and said with a smile, Shui Lingzi, did you hear that? If you delay any longer, we won't be able to reach an agreement on level 20 equipment. Hearing Yin Dao's roar, Water Spirit couldn't help but grit her teeth. Li Mingshan, do you think I will give you equipment? Li Shanshan shook his head. I don't know. I only know that you must be in a difficult position right now. After hearing Li Shanshan's words, Shui Lingzi was stunned for a moment. She turned to look at the people from Kikyaman in the distance and sighed in her heart. It seemed that it would be difficult to take away Kikyaman's people today. Water Spirit could agree to give the Godly Sword sect 2 pieces of level 20 equipment as a condition. This was a matter between the two sects, so it wasn't a big deal. Although he would be looked down upon when he returned, he wouldn't be the one taking the equipment. However, if they were the ones who injured someone, the Tiangongmen would never take the compensation for them. Unless Kikyaman's secret was true, they could easily make level 20 and above equipment. But was this secret true? Was Shui Lingzi still doubting it? If level 20 equipment was so easy to make, then what was the use of these master craftsmen? Therefore, Shui Lingzi believed that even if the compensation was for Yin Dao's equipment, whether it was level 15 or level 20 equipment, he would have to take it himself. A level 20 equipment for the Tiangongmen wasn't a big deal. But for Shui Lingzi, it was a big deal. After so many years, Shui Lingzi had only gotten one level 20 equipment. Now, a little Yin Dao, could it be that she would give away this level 20 equipment? If she really wanted to give away the level 20 equipment, then it would be a big favor. However, Shui Lingzi could guarantee that even if she gave the level 20 equipment to Yin Dao, not only would it not be a big favor, but it would also cause them to laugh at her. Therefore, Shui Lingzi would never give away the equipment, especially in this kind of situation. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Yin Dao, but she saw that Yin Dao was also looking at her with a sneer. Seeing Yin Dao's gaze, Shui Lingzi's heart was about to explode. A little Yin Dao from the godly sword sect dared to challenge a consecrated of the Tiangongmen. If this spread out, it would definitely cause endless ridicule. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi secretly decided that even if it was level 15 equipment, she would not give it to them. Seeing that Shui Lingzi was not willing to answer, Li Mingshan became impatient. Shui Lingzi, have you thought it through? Hearing Li Mingshan's question, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and shook her head. I have thought it through. I will not give you the compensation. If you have any complaints, I will accept it. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan's face changed. Li Mingshan and Li Mingshui had already arrived. The reason why they didn't show up immediately was because they had other goals. Yin Dao's actions made them decide to watch from the side. This was because they also knew that this was a good opportunity. If Shui Lingzi was forced to agree to Yin Dao's conditions, then she would immediately receive a level 25 equipment. How high level 25 equipment was, Li Mingshan and Li Mingshui naturally knew better than Yin Dao. If Shui Lingzi could compensate Yin Dao with a level 25 equipment because of such a small matter, then it would be a great thing. Of course, Li Mingshan also knew that the possibility of this was not high. In Li Mingshan's heart, although he was very eager for level 25 equipment, if there was a level 20 equipment, then he would be very satisfied. Therefore, they only appeared after seeing that Yin Dao was seriously injured. As for the compensation of the equipment belonging to Silverblade, that was not a problem at all. A mere disciple of the Godly Blade sect would obediently surrender under the pressure of the two protectors of the Godly Blade sect and hand over the equipment. Seeing Shui Lingzi's ugly face, Li Mingshan knew that this was going to be bad. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan suddenly laughed. Shui Lingzi, I will not talk nonsense with you. Level 25 equipment is indeed difficult for you. Level 20 equipment. As long as you take out a level 20 equipment, I, Li Mingshan, will promise not to pursue this matter. What do you think? Hearing Li Mingshan take the initiative to lower the conditions, Shui Lingzi's heart was moved. If she used a level 20 equipment in exchange for peace, was it worth it? Just when Shui Lingzi was moved, she suddenly heard Yin Dao shout, No, I won't agree. You must have a level 25 equipment. Otherwise, I will not agree to this condition. When Yin Dao's words came out, Li Mingshan and Shui Lingzi's face changed at the same time. Shui Lingzi looked up at Li Mingshan and sneered. Li Mingshan, it seems like your words are useless. Chapter 493. Li Shanshan shook his head with an ugly expression. Water Spirit, don't worry. If you want me to promise you, I will definitely do it. Water Spirit sneered. Even if Yin Dao doesn't agree, it's not a problem. Hearing Water Spirit's question, Li Shan slightly turned his head and looked at Yin Dao lying on the ground. Then he looked back at Water Spirit and nodded. Water Spirit, don't worry. As long as you give me a level 20 equipment, this matter can be solved. What do you think? Water Spirit was a bit hesitant. She didn't know what choice to make. Although Li Mingshan had already lowered the conditions, a single piece of level 20 equipment and a single person was still very difficult for Shui Lingzi. Level 20 equipment wasn't as precious as level 25 equipment, but it was still something that ordinary people couldn't ask for. Water Spirit turned her head and looked at Yin Dao, only to see Yin Dao looking at Li Shan with a face full of hatred. Seeing this scene, Water Spirit's heart moved. She suddenly had an idea. Water Spirit looked at Li Shan and nodded. Li Shan, do you really mean what you say? Seeing that Water Spirit was about to agree, Li Shan was suddenly overjoyed. Although level 20 equipment was as precious as level 25 equipment, since it was free, why wouldn't he be willing to accept it? Thinking of this, Li Shan quickly nodded and smiled. Don't worry, Water Spirit. We are old friends. Don't you believe the words of an old friend? Seeing that Li Shan still had the face to say that they were old friends, Water Spirit sneered and secretly spat at him in her heart. This kind of old friend, the less the better. It would be best if there wasn't even one, that would be the best. Although Water Spirit sneered in her heart, the smile on her face didn't change. Li Shan, since you're straightforward, I naturally won't talk nonsense. Okay. Just as Water Spirit's words reached here, Yin Dao's shout suddenly interrupted her. No, I don't agree. You clearly said level 25 equipment. Why did it become level 20 equipment? I won't agree. Hearing Yin Dao's shout, Li Shan couldn't help but frown. But he didn't turn his head to look at Yin Dao. Instead, he looked at Water Spirit and said with a smile, Don't worry, as long as I agree, there will be no problem. Water Spirit nodded with a smile. All right, Li Mingshan, I believe in you. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. However, in order to prevent future troubles, I still hope to hear Yin Dao agree to this matter. Hearing this, Li Mingshan's expression changed. He stared at Shui Lingzi for a long time before gritting his teeth and asking, Shui Lingzi, what do you mean? Don't you believe me? After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi shook her head. It's not that I don't believe him, but I don't believe him. Speaking of this, Water Spirit signaled Silver Knife with her eyes. Li Shan shook his head and said in a deep voice, Yin Dao is a disciple of the Godly Blade sect. As long as I, the protector, say a word, he will definitely listen. Shui Ling, you can rest assured. Shui Lingzi shook her head. I don't feel assured. I really don't feel assured at all. If I take out the equipment and it can't solve the problem, then wouldn't I suffer a great loss? Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Li Mingshan, you also know that level 20 equipment is very precious. If I take out such a precious item and it can't solve the problem, if it was you, would you be willing? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan finally nodded his head. Shui Lingzi was right. Such a precious item. If it can't solve the problem, then why take it out? Li Mingshan slowly turned around and looked down at Yin Dao, who was lying on the ground. He chuckled and said, Yin Dao, you heard the conversation between me and Shui Lingzi. Hurry up and agree to it. Li Mingshan's words were very short, but also very useful. He directly stated the main point and made Yin Dao agree to Shui Lingzi's condition. Yin Dao looked at the smiling Li Mingshan, but his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He wasn't deaf. He clearly heard the conversation between Li Mingshan and Shui Lingzi from beginning to end. Not only did he hear it clearly, but he also understood their meaning. The final result of the discussion between Li Mingshan and Shui Lingzi was a level 20 equipment to solve the problem. Although level 20 equipment was good, but it was far from what Yin Dao wanted. Yin Dao still hoped that level 25 equipment would allow him to embark on a glorious life. There was only one chance. After this one, there would be no more chances. Yin Dao was sure that if he left here, no matter where he met Shui Lingzi, as long as he dared to ask for the equipment, he would definitely be beaten to a pulp by Shui Lingzi. What should he do? Li Mingshan already asked, what should he do? Yin Dao could only feel the fine beads of sweat on his forehead. They had already gathered into large beads of sweat and were flowing down his cheeks. If he agreed, he would get a level 20 equipment. Although level 20 equipment was good, Yin Dao already understood that even if he put a level 20 equipment in front of the Godly Knife sect master, the Godly Knife sect master wouldn't even look at it. Because level 20 equipment was too low for the Godly Knife sect master. Only level 25 equipment could make the Godly Knife sect master look at him differently. But if he didn't agree, looking at Li Mingshan's eyes, he would definitely not be able to pass this test. From the conversation between Li Mingshan and Shui Lingzi, Yin Dao understood that the highest price in Li Mingshan's heart was actually a level 20 equipment. The price in Li Mingshan's heart and Yin Dao's heart were not the same price. Opportunity. Opportunity. These two words kept echoing in Yin Dao's mind. After a while, Yin Dao finally gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Lord Protector, I don't agree. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Mingshan's face changed and coldly asked, Yin Dao, do you know who you were talking to? Yin Dao hurriedly got up and cupped his fist towards Li Mingshan. Greetings, Lord Protector. Li Mingshan nodded. Yin Dao, let me ask you the conditions that I just discussed with Shui Lingzi. Do you agree or not? Yin Dao shook his head, then gritted his teeth and said, I don't agree. Hearing this, Li Mingshan immediately took a step forward and sternly shouted, Yin Dao, do you dare to oppose the decision of your Lord Protector? Saying this, Li Mingshan's tone paused. Then he continued, the seventh rule of our sect. Recite it for me. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao's face also changed. For a moment, he was speechless. Seeing that Yin Dao dared to not answer his question, Li Mingshan angrily said, Yin Dao, I really didn't think that you would dare to disobey the orders of your superiors. Do you believe that I won't use the sect's rules to punish you? Chapter 494. Looking at what was happening, Shui Lingzi sneered in her heart. She already knew that Yin Dao wasn't a good person. Although Li Mingshan agreed that level 20 equipment could solve the problem, Shui Lingzi was sure that Yin Dao, who wanted to rely on level 25 equipment, would never agree to this condition. If Yin Dao wanted to agree, he would have agreed long ago. Why would he wait until now? Not only that, Shui Lingzi was sure that Yin Dao wouldn't give in so easily. This young man had dreams and ambitions, and for the sake of his dreams, he dared to ask for an exorbitant price like water spirits level 25 equipment. From this, one could imagine just how great this young man's ambition was. Li Mingshan wanted to use level 20 equipment to solve the problem, but Yin Dao didn't agree. This way, there would be a conflict between the two. If Li Mingshan attacked Yin Dao in anger, it would be very advantageous for Shui Lingzi. This was the moment that Shui Lingzi was waiting for. The development of the situation was just as Shui Lingzi guessed. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao said loudly after a while, the seventh rule of the Godly Knife sect is that the disciples of the Godly Knife sect must obey the orders of their superiors. Hearing Yin Dao reciting this, Li Mingshan sneered. If you violate the sect rules, what punishment will there be? Hearing this, Yin Dao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He replied with a trembling voice, if you violate the sect rules, you will be punished according to the degree of violation. Li Mingshan turned his head to look at Yin Dao and snorted, according to the sect rules, how will you be punished? Hearing this, Yin Dao suddenly said loudly, Lord Protector, it's not the same thing. The matter between me and Shui Lingzi is our private matter. The Godly Knife sect's rules can't control me. Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Li Mingshui, who had been silent, suddenly said, Yin Dao, you talk back to your superiors. This is already a violation of the sect rules. What else do you have to say? Yin Dao said loudly, I don't accept this. This is my private matter. The Godly Knife sect has no right to interfere. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan sneered. Yin Dao, Are you saying that you don't want to listen to me? Dao shook his head. That's not what I meant. I just wanted to say that I've already reached an agreement with Water Spirit. He'll compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment. But you insisted on compensating him with a piece of level 20 equipment. I will never agree to that. After hearing Dao's words, Li Shan was a bit annoyed. He felt that there was something wrong with Silverknife's brain. Wanting to obtain a piece of level 25 equipment with just a little bit of damage was simply too laughable. Water Spirit being able to compensate him with a level 20 equipment made Li Mingshan secretly happy. As for level 25 equipment, Li Mingshan never thought about it. It was simply unrealistic. Li Shan took a deep breath and calmed down the anger in his heart. Then he slowly stepped forward and arrived in front of the silver knife. Dao, do you know how many level 25 equipment there are in the entire South County? Silver Knife shook his head. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I only know that since the Tiangongmen injured me, they must compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment. Otherwise, I won't agree. Seeing that Dao was still stubborn, Li Shan's heart was once again filled with anger. As the protector of the godly knife sect, talking to Dao was already giving him face. But he didn't expect that Dao wouldn't give him face. However, for the sake of that level 20 equipment, Li Shan decided to endure. Dao, in the entire South County, there are probably less than 10 pieces of level 25 equipment. Do you think the Tiangongmen will compensate you with such a precious item? Dao shook his head. I don't care how many level 25 equipment there are in the South County. I just want my level 25 equipment. Hearing Dao's answer, Li Shan was really angry. He fiercely waved his hand and slapped Dao's face. Dao, are you crazy? Don't you understand what I'm saying? Dao was slapped to the ground by Li Shan. After struggling for a while, he barely managed to get up. He held his swollen face and said loudly, Protector, this is my own matter. I know what I'm doing. Know what you're doing? Hearing Dao's words, Li Shan was so angry that he wanted to slap him again. But when he saw Dao's miserable appearance, he held back. Li Shan took a deep breath and calmed down his anger. Then, he tried to dissuade her. Dao, I can tell you the truth. No matter what, the Tiangongmen won't compensate you with level 25 equipment. Just give up. Dao shook his head. No, they won't. If they can agree to level 20 equipment, they will definitely agree to level 25 equipment. After hearing Silver Knife's words, Li Shan only felt the anger in his heart surging endlessly. He slowly closed his eyes, no longer looking at Silver Knife in front of him. After a while, when he felt a little better, Li Shan opened his eyes, looked at Silver Knife again, and said softly, Dao, just now, if we didn't appear, do you know what the consequences would be? Dao shook his head. I don't know. At this point, Silver Knife paused for a moment before continuing. I only know that they must compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment. Otherwise, I definitely won't agree to it. Looking at Dao's shining eyes, Li Shan suddenly understood. Silver Knife had already gone crazy. He had gone crazy over that level 25 equipment. Li Shan patted Dao's shoulder and sighed. Dao, the reason why we appeared was because we saw that Water Spirit was about to make a move on you. Dao sneered and said with disdain, He doesn't dare. He's afraid that the Godly Sword sect and the Tiangongmen will start a war. So he doesn't dare. Dao paused for a moment before continuing. He's just trying to scare me. He wants me to give in and agree to his conditions. Humph, I won't agree. I want level 25 equipment. Let's see what he can do to me. Looking at Dao's confident expression, Li Shan took a deep breath and slowly asked, Dao, if Water Spirit really did attack you, what would you do? Dao shook his head. Lord Protector, don't worry. Water Spirit definitely won't dare to attack. I'm sure of it. Hearing Dao's confident answer, Li Shan felt his hands tremble. There was a voice in his heart that kept shouting, Hurry up and attack. Don't hesitate. Beat this annoying guy. Li Shan's hands kept clenching into fists and slowly loosening. Li Shan didn't understand where Dao's confidence came from. Just now, He had clearly seen that Water Spirit was about to attack Yin Dao. In fact, even if Water Spirit killed Yin Dao, it wouldn't cause too much trouble, because it was Yin Dao who provoked the Tiangomen first. Chapter 495. Looking at the confident Silverblade, Li Shanshan's irritable mood suddenly recovered. Silverblade, are you sure? Silverblade nodded. Protector, don't worry. As long as we don't agree, he will definitely agree to our conditions. Li Shanshan nodded and suddenly asked, Silverblade, what if they don't agree? What should we do? Silverblade shook his head and replied, they will definitely agree. Li Shanshan stared at Silverblade. After a while, he suddenly sighed. Silverblade, if they don't agree to your conditions, they might even take the opportunity to kill you. What should we do then? Hearing this, Silverblade froze for a moment. He then shook his head and sneered, don't worry, Protector, they won't dare to do anything. Hearing Silverblade's answer, Li Shanshan impatiently asked, I'm saying if your conditions are too high and Water Spirit and Fire Spirit can't accept it and kill you. At that time, what will you do? Hearing this, Silverblade suddenly felt sad. Even if they kill me, I won't change my conditions. Hearing Silverblade's answer, Li Shanshan secretly sighed. He knew that in front of a huge prophet, Silverblade had already gone crazy. However, Li Shanshan didn't look down on Silverblade because of this, because he was also like this. At the beginning, when he wanted to appear, he heard the conversation between Silverblade and Water Spirit. He was also attracted by the level 20 equipment, so he didn't appear. In the end, when he heard the name of the level 25 equipment, Li Shanshan's heart was beating wildly. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. If he could get a level 25 equipment, Li Shanshan believed that he would be seriously injured by them. This was the reason why Li Shanshan didn't appear. Now, Li Shanshan had two choices. One was to accept Water Spirit's conditions and get a level 20 equipment. If he could get a level 20 equipment, Li Shanshan would be very satisfied. However, behind the level 20 equipment, there was a level 25 equipment hidden among them. Thinking of the level 25 equipment, Li Shanshan felt his heart beat faster. Thinking of himself wearing a level 25 equipment, how glorious it would be. What should he choose? Should he agree to Water Spirit's request, or should he continue to insist on that level 25 equipment? If he agreed to Water Spirit's conditions, then he would be able to obtain level 20 equipment. However, Li Mingshan wasn't so sure about level 25 equipment. Li Mingshan's experience was naturally broader than Silverknife's. He was very clear on how precious a level 25 equipment was. It was precisely because of this that Li Mingshan didn't dare to guarantee that he would be able to obtain the level 25 equipment if he persisted. If they persevered until the end, not only would they fail to obtain level 25 equipment, but they would also fail to obtain level 20 equipment from the workshop. That would truly be a loss. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan became more hesitant. At this moment, Li Shanshan suddenly realized that the level 20 equipment that he had always desired was no longer that important. Although Li Shanshan was the protector of the Godly Knife faction, it didn't mean that he had level 20 equipment. He had only seen other people wearing level 20 equipment. But now he was actually looking down on level 20 equipment. This was all because of the level 25 equipment, which made Li Mingshan's heart become high. Li Mingshan looked at Silverknife in front of him and subconsciously asked, Silverknife, are you sure? Silverknife nodded his head with difficulty. Yes, I am sure. Hearing Silverknife's answer, Li Mingshan suddenly clenched his teeth. At worst, he would give up that level 20 equipment. As long as he could obtain level 25 equipment, everything would be worth it. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan suddenly turned his head to look at Water Spirit and faintly smiled. Water Spirit, you see, I have no other choice. Although I promised you that I would use level 20 equipment to solve this matter, Silverknife doesn't agree. Speaking up to here, Li Mingshan's tone paused for a moment before continuing. How about this, you talk to Silverknife yourself. If he agrees, then this matter will naturally be solved smoothly. If he doesn't agree, then I have no other choice. In fact, even if she didn't hear Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit already knew what the result of this matter would be. The conversation between Li Mingshan and Silver Knife was clearly heard by Water Spirit. She already understood that Li Mingshan was tempted by level 25 equipment. Knowing this result, Water Spirit could only sigh. There was really nothing she could do. She originally thought that Li Mingshan was a rational person. As the protector of the Godly Knife faction, he should know what he could obtain and what he couldn't. However, Water Spirit never thought that a protector of the Godly Knife faction would be infected by a madman. Li Mingshan's originally rational mind actually became irrational after talking to Silver Knife. In fact, Water Spirit was very clear that if Li Mingshan used his identity as the protector of the Godly Knife faction to suppress Silver Knife, then Silver Knife would definitely give in and agree to the conditions they just discussed. However, Li Mingshan didn't insist. Not only did he not persuade Silver Knife, he was persuaded by Silver Knife. Water Spirit looked up at Li Mingshan and slowly said, "Li Mingshan, this decision, you will regret it." Li Mingshan shook his head. "No, because this is not my decision. It is Silver Knife's decision. Therefore, I won't regret it. Even if I regret it, it should be Silver Knife who regrets it." Water Spirit sneered. "I didn't think that you would not be satisfied with a level 20 equipment. Don't you know that it is not good to be too greedy?" Li Mingshan shook his head. "Water Spirit, you don't need to say these words to me. If there is anything you want to talk to Silver Knife, as long as you come to an agreement, then we will agree to it." Water Spirit turned to look at Silver Knife and sighed. "Don't you see that Silver Knife has gone crazy?" As soon as Shui Lingzi's voice fell, before Li Mingshan could reply, Yin Dao roared, "Shui Lingzi, don't talk nonsense. How am I crazy? I think you're the crazy one." Silver Knife paused for a moment before continuing. "Water Spirit, you don't need to care if I am crazy or not. I just want to tell you that I will not change my level 25 equipment." Hearing Yin Dao's answer, Shui Lingzi shook her head, then turned to Li Mingshan and sneered. "He's already gone crazy. Do you want to go crazy with him?" Li Mingshan laughed. "Water Spirit, if I don't agree to your conditions, then I am crazy? Isn't this too ridiculous?" Water Spirit sneered. "It doesn't matter if you agree to my conditions or not. What is important is that the conditions you are asking for. Don't you think it is ridiculous? Level 25 equipment, I will not agree to it." Chapter 496. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan shook his head. "I don't know about these things and I don't want to know. The only thing I can do is to protect the disciples of the Godly Sword sect from being harmed by you. Other than that, it's a matter between the two of you. I don't want to get involved." After hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth and turned to look at Yin Dao. She coldly said, "Yin Dao, can't you change your conditions?" Yin Dao saw that Li Shan was making the decision for him, and his heart was filled with confidence. After hearing Shui Lingzi's question, he immediately replied with a cold smile. "Shui Lingzi, my conditions won't change. Unless you can take out level 25 equipment, there's nothing to talk about." Shui Lingzi looked deeply at Yin Dao and suddenly turned to Fire Spirit's side and said with a laugh, "It seems like our trip today was in vain. Since we can't meet their conditions, then let's forget about today's matter." After saying this, Shui Lingzi turned to Wu Lai and Du Wu Dai and cupped her fists. "Two seniors, I can't solve this matter anymore. So, the agreement we talked about can't be fulfilled. So, I ask for your understanding. All of the conditions we talked about are now null and void." After everyone heard Shui Lingzi's words, they were all stunned. The field fell into silence, and only the crackling sound of the bonfire could be heard. After a while, Du Wudai suddenly jumped in front of Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, what do you mean by this? You clearly agreed on the conditions just now. Are you going back on your words in the blink of an eye?" Shui Lingzi shook her head. "It's not that I'm not going back on my words. The conditions we talked about just now were for you to ignore the matter between us and Kikyaman. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Now you can see that for some reason, I'm giving up on taking away Kikyaman's people. Naturally, the conditions we talked about before don't count. Shadowless suddenly sneered and said, "This doesn't seem right. Since you already promised us, why would you go back on your words? Are you looking down on us?" Water Spirit shook her head. I definitely didn't mean that. If I looked down on you, I wouldn't have used equipment as a condition, but at this point, Water Spirit turned to look at Silverblade before continuing. "Brother Shadowless, you heard it too. Silverblade of the Godly Blade sect want me to give him a level 25 equipment as compensation for his injuries. But I can't do it, so I'll give up on this plan." Shadowless sneered. "Shui Lingzi, giving up on the plan is your business. It has nothing to do with us. Since you promised us, then you have to keep your word." Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. "Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Water Spirit waved her hand indifferently. "Brother Shadowless, it's up to you." Just now, it was because I wanted to take away the 7 skill sex people that I agreed to your conditions. But now that I've given up, our conditions are naturally null and void. If you have any objections, go ahead and do it. It has nothing to do with me. At this moment, Silverblade was dumbfounded. The reason why he was able to negotiate with Shui Lingzi was because she wanted to take away Kikyaman. But he never thought that Shui Lingzi would give up. If Shui Lingzi gave up on this plan, then it would be very disadvantageous for him. If Shui Lingzi gave up on taking away Kikyaman's people, then his injuries would have been in vain. Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Mingshan was also shocked. The thing he was most worried about had happened. If Shui Lingzi went back on her words, then not to mention the level 25 equipment, even the level 20 equipment would be gone. When Shui Lingzi and Silverblade were negotiating, he also heard it clearly. As long as the Godly Blade sect didn't care about this matter, then they could have gotten 2 level 20 equipment. But now, because they were too greedy, they couldn't get anything. Seeing everyone's expression, Shui Lingzi sneered in her heart. "A bunch of greedy people. Since I can't feed you, then I won't feed you anymore." The scene fell into silence again. Even Shadowless had nothing to say. Because he really had nothing to say. He couldn't take the initiative to let Shui Lingzi take away Kikyaman's people. Shui Lingzi's change of heart caught everyone off guard. For a moment, they didn't know how to react. Among everyone, the happiest was of course Sun Xiaoer. As long as the Heavenly Palace sect didn't take them away, then they would be safe. Zhang Ming continued to watch with great interest because he knew that this matter wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning. Time passed bit by bit, but the scene was still silent. No one spoke because everyone was thinking about what to do next. Shui Lingzi couldn't meet everyone's conditions, so he had no other choice but to wait. The rest of the people also had the same idea. They all wanted to take away Kikyaman's people, but they all knew that this matter wasn't easy to accomplish. 6 pieces of level 20 equipment were not enough to satisfy everyone. Who among the people present could offer a better deal? Looking at the silent Shui Lingzi, Li Mingshan wanted to make peace several times, but he couldn't open his mouth. This was because he wasn't sure if Shui Lingzi would still talk to him if he tried again. Yin Dao was indeed heavily injured by Fire Spirit, but so what? Yin Dao was only an ordinary disciple of the Godly Sword sect. Even if he was injured, it wouldn't cause a fight between the 2 sections. Maybe this matter could be turned into a small one, and a small one into nothing. At this moment, Yin Dao, who had been sitting there quietly all this time, suddenly shouted, "Shui Lingzi, you injured me. Today, you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, the Godly Sword sect won't let you go." Hearing Yin Dao shout, Shui Lingzi only turned her head and coldly looked at him. "Yin Dao, I advise you to save your energy and quickly heal your injuries. Otherwise, when your injuries worsen, it will be too late to regret." Yin Dao loudly shouted, "My injuries don't need you to care. I just want you to compensate me. You must give me the level 25 equipment." Hearing Yin Dao's hysterical shouts, Fire Spirit suddenly sneered and said, "Yin Dao brat, you should save your energy. You're lucky today. After today, you'll see what happens. Hearing Fire Spirit's threatening words, Dao wasn't afraid at all. He loudly said, Fire Spirit, you don't need to scare me. I'm not afraid of you. If you don't compensate me today, the protectors of the Godly Sword sect won't let you go. Fire Spirit turned his head and looked at Li Mingshan. He coldly laughed and said, Li Mingshan, you should take care of this madman. Don't let him shout and cause trouble. Chapter 497. After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshan was furious. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly sighed and turned to look at Dao. His heart was a bit annoyed. If it wasn't for this idiot, how could things have turned out like this? If they let Water Spirit compensate them with 2 pieces of level 20 equipment and another piece of level 20 equipment, that would be 3 pieces of level 20 equipment. With these 3 pieces of level 20 equipment, when they go back, they would definitely be praised by the sect master. But now, the benefits just now were like a dream. After waking up from the dream, there was nothing left. Not a single piece of equipment. It was all Dao's fault. If it wasn't for him, these 3 pieces of level 20 equipment would have been easily obtained. At this moment, the thought that just appeared in Li Mingshan's mind once again rushed out. Hurry up, don't hesitate. This kid is too annoying. If it wasn't for him, how could things have turned out like this? Hurry up and beat him into a pulp so that he can't say those annoying words again. Li Mingshui suddenly came to Li Mingshan's side and lowered his voice. Big brother, how about I go talk to Water Spirit and agree to his request? After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Li Mingshan looked at Water Spirit and shook his head. If it was us who brought it up first, do you think Water Spirit would agree? Li Mingshui anxiously said, Are we just going to let it go like this? Li Mingshan sighed. We don't have a choice. If I'm not wrong, if you took the initiative to talk to Water Spirit, I'm afraid he would only give you a piece of level 15 equipment. As for level 20 equipment, I'm afraid it's impossible. Li Mingshui heard this and angrily said, How can this be? They already promised us. How can they go back on their words? Li Mingshan sighed. It's not them who went back on their words. It's us who went back on our words. After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshui was stunned for a moment and then sighed. They'd go back on their words. Water Spirit had already agreed to give them a piece of level 20 equipment, and Li Mingshan had also agreed. But after Li Mingshan and Dao talked for a while, they actually didn't agree. Thinking of this, Li Mingshui angrily looked at Dao. Big brother, what did this kid just say to you? Why did you listen to him? Hearing Li Mingshui's words, Li Mingshan's face turned red. He clearly knew that Dao was a madman, but he actually believed the words of this madman. Didn't this mean that he was worse than a madman? But to say regret to no avail, Li Mingshan's words, Li Mingshan's to look to see to say, if I didn't listen to him, then it was to say to Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan to Li Mingshui, to Mingshan to the Mingshui to say at Li Ming. Li Mingshan to say, Li to say, Li to s to Li to say, to the two to be the way of the Li Ming Ti Li Ming Li. Hearing Dao's words, Shui Lingzi turned to look at him and lightly said, This matter doesn't seem to have anything to do with a lowly disciple like you. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Dao froze for a moment. Soon, anger began to rise from the bottom of his heart. Water Spirit, you dare to look down on me? Li Mingshan sneered. You're right. You're just a small disciple of the Godly Blade sect. If it wasn't for the fact that you're pitiful, do you think I would waste my time talking to you? Speaking to here, Li Mingshan paused for a moment before continuing. Although I pity you, you don't know what's good for you. You can't tell good from bad, so I can't do anything about it. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Dao's face turned ashen. He wanted to get up from the ground, but his injuries were too heavy. Even sitting up consumed all of his strength, so it was impossible for him to stand up. Dao tried for a long time, but was unable to stand up. Helplessly, he could only sit there and take a few deep breaths. Then he turned to Li Ming Shan and angrily said, Li Ming Shan, I'm telling you, if you don't give me level 25 equipment today, you won't have a good time. Hearing Li Ming Shan's words, Li Ming Shan slowly walked in front of him and sneered. Yin Dao, if I don't compensate you, what will you do to me? Will you hit me? Scold me? Ha! Fire Spirit and Silver Saber, who were laughing at the sky, said coldly, I will report this matter to our sect master and let him know how the people of the Heavens Craftsman faction bullied the disciples of the Godly Saber faction. When the time comes, when the Godly Blade sect and the Tiangalmen go to war, let's see if you can still laugh. Hearing Li Ming Shan's words, Li Ming Shan stopped laughing and said with disdain, Yin Dao brat, with just you? Yin Dao gritted his teeth. If I'm not enough, there are still 2 protectors of the Godly Blade sect. They will testify for me. Li Ming Shan nodded. All right then, go back and tell them. I'll wait for your good news. Seeing Li Ming Shan's nonchalant attitude, Yin Dao became anxious. He quickly turned to Li Ming Shan and said loudly, Li Ming Shan, if you don't agree to my conditions, then don't even think about taking away Kikiaman's people today. Li Ming Shan sighed. Yin Dao, you should wake up from your dream. Didn't you hear that I gave up? Do you know what it means to give up? In other words, I gave up on taking away Kikiaman's people. Hearing Li Ming Shan's words, Yin Dao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. But then he continued to shout, Li Ming Shan, don't lie to me. You want to take away Kikiaman's people. Although you said that you won't take them away, I believe that you will find a chance to do so. Hearing Li Ming Shan's words, Li Ming Shan nodded. That's right, that's what I was thinking. Speaking up to here, Li Ming Shan paused for a moment before continuing. I'll wait here for a chance. Once all of you leave, I'll naturally take away the small sex people. This way, I won't waste a single piece of equipment, and I can also take away Kikiaman's people. Isn't this killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Speaking up to here, Li Ming Shan sighed. What a pity. I didn't even give away my 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. Who can I blame for this? Yin Dao sneered. Li Ming Shan, as long as you want to take away Kikiaman's people, then I'll fight you until the end. I won't let you take away any of Kikiaman's people. Shui Lingzi shook her head and turned to look at Yin Dao. She sneered and said, You think you can do that? Speaking up to here, Li Ming Shan paused for a moment before continuing. I don't think that's possible. You've suffered such heavy injuries. If you don't treat them quickly, I believe that you won't last long. You'll be finished before we take away Kikiaman. Chapter 498. After hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao clenched his teeth and snapped. Shui Lingzi, you don't need to scare me. I'll be fine for a while, but if you don't bring him over, I'm afraid your position will be unstable, huh? Looking at the crazy Yin Dao, Shui Lingzi sighed and slowly walked in front of Yin Dao and whispered, Yin Dao, why are you doing this? If you don't hurry up and treat your condition, even if you get a level 25 equipment, it won't be of any use. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. Yin Dao, why don't you think about it? Why do you want level 25 equipment? Isn't it so that you can have a bright future? But if your martial arts are crippled, how will you be able to stand out? Even if you are valued by the Godly Knife Sex Patriarch, do you think he will let you be called the Godly Knife Sex Patriarch? Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Yin Dao's face finally changed. He took a few deep breaths and wanted to say something to comfort himself. But when he opened his mouth, he couldn't say anything. If he really became a cripple, then it would really be over. Yin Dao was also very clear about this point. He was just restraining himself from thinking about it. But when Shui Lingzi said it, this question immediately circled around his mind. Yin Dao could feel that his injuries were very serious. Although he could barely sit up, the pain from his internal organs didn't make him feel good. Feeling his injuries, Yin Dao's forehead was covered in cold sweat. A thought emerged in his mind. Why'd he do this? After getting the level 25 equipment, he would give it to the Godly Knife Sex Patriarch and ask him to accept him as a disciple. With his injuries, every breath would bring him intense pain. With such heavy injuries, could he really hold on until that moment? As he thought about it, Silver Knife felt a surge of emotions. Then he felt a sweetness in his throat, and a wave of heat spurted out from his mouth. Shui Lingzi looked at Yin Dao with some pity and sighed. Yin Dao, as a person, you must know your own strengths and weaknesses. You must learn how to seize opportunities. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing, but this opportunity is definitely not an opportunity like today. This is not an opportunity. This is the door to hell for you. If it wasn't for the fact that you were as helpless as I was back then, I'm afraid you would have been killed long ago. Water's spirit sighed again. Yin Dao, you should think about it carefully. What will you do in the future? As Yin Dao listened to Shui Lingzi's words, his internal organs began to churn. After spitting out that mouthful of blood, not only did it not alleviate this feeling, it seemed to have become even more serious. Waves of heat continued to surge into his throat, causing Yin Dao to be unable to bear it any longer and spit out another mouthful of blood. Seeing Yin Dao spit out another mouthful of blood and his complexion become dim, Shui Lingzi was shocked. He had already seen that Silver Knife was forcing himself to persevere, so his injury was temporarily suppressed. However, when he was in a trance, his injury began to worsen. If he didn't hurry and treat him, Yin Dao would probably faint after spitting out a few more mouthfuls of blood. Seeing Yin Dao's lifeless eyes staring blankly at him, his body softened and was about to collapse to the ground again. Shui Lingzi sighed and suddenly reached out a hand and placed it on Yin Dao's shoulder. With a thought, a strong stream of Zhenqi was released from Shui Lingzi's palm and slowly poured into Yin Dao's shoulder. As this stream of Zhenqi entered, in just a moment, Yin Dao's deathly pale face regained a little bit of color. Seeing that Yin Dao was fine for the time being, Shui Lingzi slowly withdrew her hand. Using Zhenqi to save people was very effective, but no one would do it because every time they saved someone, it would consume a lot of Zhenqi and it would take a lot of time to recover. The reason why Shui Lingzi intervened was because she saw the helpless look in Yin Dao's eyes and subconsciously wanted to help. Shui Lingzi's actions were also seen by Li Mingshan on the side, but he didn't stop Shui Lingzi because he also hoped that things would develop this way. Because of Yin Dao's stubbornness, the two sides had reached a deadlock. This problem could have been solved with a level 20 equipment, but Yin Dao insisted on a level 25 equipment. This matter had reached a deadlock. If at this moment, Yin Dao and Shui Lingzi reconciled and went back to the previous transaction, and Shui Lingzi once again took out the level 20 equipment, this matter would have a perfect ending. Thinking of this, Li Mingshan's mouth curved into a smile, and he immediately walked towards Shui Lingzi. Coming to Shui Lingzi's side, Li Mingshan sighed. Yin Dao's injuries are really heavy. Thank you for your help just now. Otherwise Yin Dao would really be dead. Shui Lingzi shook her head. I didn't save him, and his injuries haven't healed yet. I think you should treat him as soon as possible. If this continues, Yin Dao will be crippled. Li Mingshan nodded and suddenly turned to Shui Lingzi and said with a smile, Shui Lingzi, can we talk about the matter just now? I think Yin Dao should have thought it through, and this matter should be solved very well. Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi couldn't help but sneer in her heart. Just now when they were rushing to beg them, they were all very arrogant. Now that they were ignoring them, they took the initiative to lower their conditions. Although Shui Lingzi was somewhat disdainful of Li Mingshan, her expression didn't change. Even if she heard Li Mingshan's words, she only lightly nodded and didn't say anything. Seeing Shui Lingzi's expression, Li Mingshan could only secretly sigh. He blamed himself for listening to Yin Dao's words and wanting to obtain a level 25 equipment. Although Shui Lingzi didn't say anything, Li Mingshan wanted to continue this matter. He turned to look at Yin Dao and asked in a deep voice, Yin Dao, what do you think? Yin Dao didn't immediately answer Li Mingshan's question because he was feeling very uncomfortable right now. Although Water Spirit temporarily suppressed the churning of his internal organs, she didn't heal his injuries. His vision was still blurry, and the pain was constantly stimulating his mind. Even if he wanted to speak, he couldn't do so for a while. Looking at Yin Dao's painful expression, Li Mingshan subconsciously took out the godly sword Sek's holy healing medicine. Just as he was about to hand it over to Yin Dao, he suddenly stopped. This godly sword Sek's holy healing medicine was incomparably precious. Even he only had 3 of them. The godly sword Sek's healing medicine was also divided into grades. The healing medicine used by ordinary disciples was very slow due to the raw materials used. It could only stop pain and stop bleeding. It would take a long time to recover. The middle grade healing medicine was the one in Li Mingshan's hand. Chapter 499. The effect of this medicine was very fast. After taking it, it wouldn't take long for the pain to stop, stabilizing the injury and preventing it from worsening. Holding the godly sword Sek's medicine, Li Shan hesitated, wondering if he should give it to Yin Dao. Li Shan didn't care about the medicine, but was wondering if he should heal Yin Dao's injury. If there were no accidents, after Yin Dao ate this medicine, even if it couldn't completely heal his injury would be much better in a short time. Although it was a good thing that Yin Dao's injury was healed, but what if Shui Lingzi didn't admit it? Li Shan was worried about this, so he hesitated. Looking at the medicine in Li Shan's hand, Shui Lingzi sneered. Li Shan was hesitating. Obviously, he didn't want to treat Yin Dao. Shui Lingzi wasn't in a hurry, because at this point, it didn't matter if she healed Yin Dao or not. All of this was set up to prevent Shui Lingzi from taking away Kikyaman. If Shui Lingzi gave up on this plan, then everything would be fine. So Shui Lingzi wasn't in a hurry, because she knew that even if she was anxious, it would be useless. If she messed things up because of her anxiety, then that would be the worst thing. Just as Li Shan was hesitating, Yin Dao suddenly shouted, "Lord Protector, I won't take the medicine. If I take the medicine, then there will be no evidence." Hearing this, Li Mingshan was taken aback at first, but soon a smile appeared on his face, and he quickly put away the medicine before turning to look at Shui Lingzi. At this moment, after hearing Yin Dao's words, besides sighing in her heart, she really didn't have anything to say. In order to have evidence, he was willing to give up his life? What kind of thinking was this? Yin Dao took a few deep breaths, then turned to Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, I don't want you to heal me, and you still have to give me my equipment, cough cough." Before Yin Dao could finish, he was interrupted by a violent cough. Shui Lingzi looked at Yin Dao, then turned to Li Shan and said with a bitter smile, "This Yin Dao is really a good disciple of your godly sword sect." Li Shan shook his head slightly, but didn't answer Shui Lingzi's words, and only asked Yin Dao, "Yin Dao, your injury is too serious. If you don't hurry up and treat it, then it will be too late. I think, let Shui Lingzi take out a level 20 equipment to compensate you." "No, cough cough." As soon as Li Shan finished speaking, Yin Dao shouted anxiously, but in a hurry he started coughing again. After a while, Silver Knife felt slightly better. He said in a low voice, "No, I've suffered such heavy injuries. I need to have level 25 equipment. Otherwise, I definitely won't agree." At this moment, Shadowless slowly walked up to Silver Knife and said, "Little brother, there's no need to be so stubborn. Having a piece of level 20 equipment is not a bad choice." Yin Dao turned to Yin Dao and said angrily, "My business is none of your business." Yin Dao smiled and shook his head. "Your temper is really interesting. You know it's impossible, but you still want to do it." "Interesting," Yin Dao said angrily. "I know what I'm doing. I hope you won't say it again." After being reprimanded by Yin Dao twice, Yin Dao's face changed. Then he suddenly sneered. "Yin Dao, do you think Shui Lingzi will give you a level 25 equipment? Stop dreaming. Have you ever seen a level 25 equipment? Ridiculous. You know it's impossible, but you still want to do it. Is there something wrong with your brain?" Hearing Yin Dao's words, Yin Dao was furious. He struggled to get up and fight Yin Dao, but he couldn't. He tried, but not only couldn't he get up, but he also started coughing again. After coughing for a while, Yin Dao's stomach started to churn again, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Yin Dao felt better after spitting out this mouthful of blood, and he said angrily, Dao, what I do is my own business. I hope you won't meddle in other people's business. Dao shook his head. Who cares about your business? But your stubbornness is affecting me, so I'm here to remind you. At this moment, Wu Kedi also came to the group and nodded after hearing Dao's words. Wu Kedi was different from Dao. He didn't talk to Dao, but instead turned to Li Shan and sneered. Li Shan, your godly knife faction is really full of talents. I didn't expect you to have such an elite. Hearing Wu Kedi's words, Li Shan couldn't keep his face straight. He turned to look at Wu Kedi and sneered. Wu Kedi, it's not up to an outsider like you to decide who our godly knife faction is. Wu Kedi shook his head. What Dao said is right. We had already agreed on the terms, but you guys ruined it and caused us to lose 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. Don't tell me this has nothing to do with us? Before Li Mingshan could reply, Shadowless sneered. You're right. This brat caused us to lose 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. We can't just let him go like this. Wu Kedi looked at Dao and smiled. That's right. We can't just let this go. The Godly Knife faction must give us an explanation. Li Shanshan's face changed when he heard the 2 of them say that. Among the people who came today, the Wu family and Dao were the strongest. The Wu family had Wu Lai, so Li Shan and Li Mingshui couldn't compare to them. On Dao's side, Du Wudai was the leader, and his strength was about the same as the Wu family's. Under such circumstances, even if the Godly Knife faction had Li Shan and Li Mingshui, they definitely wouldn't be a match for the Wu family and Dao. However, even if the Godly Knife faction wasn't as strong as the Wu family and Dao, would Li Shan be afraid? Impossible. The Godly Knife faction was strong, and in the entire South region, only the Sky Sword faction could compare to them. Although the Wu family and Dao were strong, the Godly Knife faction definitely wouldn't be afraid of them. Li Shan suddenly sneered. He turned to look at Wu Kedi, then at Shadowless, and asked indifferently, What? You guys still want to fight with the Godly Knife faction? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi and Dao's faces changed at the same time, and they looked at each other subconsciously. After a while, Wu Kedi laughed and said, Fight? Why do we have to fight? We're all from the South County. Why do we have to fight? We're here to ask for an explanation. We can't lose 2 pieces of level 20 equipment because of you, right? After saying this, Wu Kedi turned to look at Shadowless. Chapter 500. Wu Kedi looked at Shadowless and said with a smile, Brother Shadowless, am I right? Shadowless hurriedly replied with a smile, Of course. Water Spirit has already promised each of us 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, but because of you, we lost a total of 4 pieces of level 20 equipment. Shouldn't the Godly Sword Gate give us an explanation? Hearing Wu Kedi and Shadowless reply, Li Shanshan sneered in his heart. He knew that Wu Kedi and Shadowless didn't want to be enemies with the Godly Sword Clan. The reason why they didn't want to be enemies with the Godly Sword Clan was because of their strength. They didn't dare. Thinking of this, Li Shanshan sneered. You losing equipment is your own problem. What does it have to do with the Godly Sword Clan? Seeing that Li Shanshan didn't admit his mistake, Wu Kedi couldn't help but frown. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked in a deep voice, Li Shanshan, do you really think that we'll just let this go? Li Shanshan sneered. If we don't let this go, what else do you want? Hearing Li Shanshan's words, Wu Kedi couldn't hold it in anymore and said angrily, Li Shanshan, are you looking down on the Wu clan? Li Shanshan shook his head. Brother Wu, how could I look down on the famous Wu clan? I just want to tell you that the equipment issue has nothing to do with the Godly Sword Clan. Even if you want to look for trouble, you should look for the Taingomen. They went back on their words, and that is their responsibility. Don't look for the wrong person. Hearing this, Fire Spirit on the side was furious. He took a step forward and said angrily, Li Shanshan, if it wasn't for the Godly Sword Clan, how could things have developed to this point? What does it have to do with the Taingomen? Li Shanshan turned to look at Fire Spirit and sneered. You promised the Wu clan and Shadowless 4 pieces of level 20 equipment. Why didn't you fulfill your promise? Does it have anything to do with the godly sword clan? Fire Spirit pointed at the silver knife on the ground and said angrily, "If it wasn't for this brat, our problem would have been solved long ago. How can you blame the Tiangongman?" Li Mingshui suddenly took a step forward and arrived in front of Fire Spirit. "Fire Spirit, why are you so angry?" At this point, Li Mingshui paused for a moment before continuing. "Fire Spirit, it's all because of your anger that Silver Knife was heavily injured. If it wasn't for you, why would Yin Dao ask you for compensation? It's your problem if you Tiangongmen can't afford the compensation. How can you blame us Tiangongmen?" Fire Spirit said angrily, "I admit that Silver Sword is injured, but you can't ask me for level 25 equipment. Isn't this a joke?" Li Mingshui sneered. "Are you kidding? Since you dared to injure him, you must be prepared to compensate." At this point, Li Mingshui paused and sneered again before continuing. "Since you Tiangongmen can't afford the compensation, why are you still so angry? Why did you have to injure him?" Fire Spirit pointed at Silver Knife and shouted, "This brat is so hateful. Do you want me to endure this brat? I can't do it. If it happens again, I'll still beat him up." After hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshui immediately gave him a thumbs up and praised, "Fire Spirit, you're really good. I admire you." After saying this, Li Mingshui's expression changed. He snorted, "Since you're so good, why didn't you be good when you compensated? I'm really curious." After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Fire Spirit was about to say something, but he was stopped by Water Spirit. Water Spirit turned to look at Li Mingshui and said, "No matter what, we can't afford Silver Sword's compensation, so we're backing out. You can deal with the rest." Li Mingshui sneered, "Water Spirit, you think you could just take a step back? Let me ask you, are you going to give them the equipment you promised?" Water Spirit shook her head. "The reason I gave them the equipment was because I wanted to take away Kikyaman's people. These 2 pieces of equipment were to prevent them from stopping me. But now I don't want to take away Kikyaman's people, so I don't need to pay for these 2 pieces of equipment." After hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui froze for a moment. Seeing that Li Mingshui didn't answer, Water Spirit sneered and asked, "Li Mingshui, are we wrong?" This time, before Li Mingshui could answer, Li Mingshui answered first. "Water Spirit, you have to keep your word. Since you promised to give them the equipment, then you have to do it. As for whether you take away Kikyaman's people or not, what does that have to do with the equipment?" Water Spirit turned to look at Li Mingshan and asked, "Li Mingshan, what do you mean by that? If we don't take away Kikyaman's people, then we have to give you the equipment?" Li Mingshan shook his head. "I just said that the equipment and Kikyaman's matter are 2 different things. Since you promised to give us the equipment, then you have to do it." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Water Spirit suddenly laughed. "Li Mingshan, I understand what you mean. Are you saying that since I gave your godly sword faction 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, then I don't need to care about Silver Sword matter?" Li Mingshan was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and said angrily, "We don't need to care about Kikyaman's matter, but you injured our godly sword faction's disciples, so we have to care." Water Spirit sneered and said, "Can I understand it this way? Silver Sword's matter is one thing, but taking away Kikyaman's people is another thing?" Li Mingshan said angrily, "You Tiangongmen injured our godly sword faction's disciples, so we have to care?" Water Spirit shook her head. "Then since you took 2 pieces of level 20 equipment from our Tiangongmen, you can't care about us taking away Kikyaman's people, right?" This time, without waiting for Li Mingshan to answer, Li Mingshui pointed at Fire Spirit and said coldly, "You can take away Kikyaman's people, but I have to keep Fire Spirit. Because he injured our godly sword faction's disciples, he has to give us an explanation." After hearing Li Mingshui's words, Water Spirit sighed. "Your godly sword faction's way of doing things is really admirable. Even if I gave you the equipment, you still want to care about us. Why should I give you the equipment? So let's just forget about this matter. I'll back out, so the equipment naturally doesn't count." Shadowless suddenly stepped forward and said, "I think we should discuss this matter." There are only 4 of us here, so I believe that as long as we discuss this, there will be a way to solve this. After hearing Shadowless's words, Wukadee's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly stepped forward. That's right. Let's discuss this properly. Chapter 501. Shadowless smiled and said, "We can all discuss this and see if there's a better solution." After hearing Shadowless words, Li Shan also smiled and said, "That's right. There's no need to hurt our friendship. It's just a small matter. As long as we discuss it, there will be a solution." After hearing their words, Water Spirit sneered in her heart. She knew that these guys didn't have good intentions. They all wanted to succeed and get the most benefits. However, it wasn't that easy to get what they wanted. Water Spirit made up her mind this time. She had to lower the price as much as possible to minimize the Tyngolman's loss. Thinking up to here, Water Spirit smiled and asked, "Since everyone wants to discuss, then what do you think we should discuss?" Shadowless smiled and said, "Of course we have to discuss a solution that everyone is satisfied with." Fire Spirit suddenly sneered and said, "What solution is there that everyone is satisfied with?" Shadowless turned to Fire Spirit and smiled. "Of course there's a solution that everyone is satisfied with." At this point, Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing. "Since the Heaven's Craftsman faction isn't willing to compensate Silver Knife with a piece of level 25 equipment, how about this? As long as the Heaven's Craftsman faction compensates each of us with 3 pieces of level 20 equipment, this matter won't make things difficult for the Heaven's Craftsman faction, and we'll all be satisfied. What do you guys think?" As soon as Shadowless finished speaking, Wukadee clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Not bad. Brother Shadowless's suggestion is really good. As long as the Heaven's Craftsman Gate compensates each of our 3 families with 3 pieces of level 20 equipment, this matter will be considered over." After hearing Shadowless and Wukadee's words, Li Shan also secretly nodded. Through what happened just now, he already knew that it was impossible for Water Spirit to compensate him with a piece of level 25 equipment. In order to not compensate with a level 25 equipment, Water Spirit had even given up on the mission. So, level 20 equipment was Water Spirit's bottom line. If it was above level 20, then it would be beyond Water Spirit's bottom line. Naturally, this matter wouldn't be completed. Therefore, they could only focus on level 20 equipment. Thinking of this, Li Shan turned to look at Water Spirit and said with a smile, "Silver Blade's matter is a small matter. As long as we compensate him with 2 more level 20 equipment, our Tyngolman won't care about this matter anymore." After hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi's expression didn't change at all. She turned to Wukadee and asked, "What about you guys? What does your Wu clan think? How much level 20 equipment do you need from us Tyngolman?" Wukadee thought for a moment, then extended 3 fingers and said with a smile, "The Wu family requires the Tyngolman to pay 3 pieces of level 20 equipment." At this point, Wukadee paused for a moment before continuing, "On top of the original 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, you have to give us an additional piece of level 20 equipment." After hearing Wukadee's words, Shui Lingzi didn't know whether to agree or disagree. She only asked faintly, "Wukadee, why do you have to give us an additional piece of level 20 equipment?" Wukadee pointed at Wukatian and said with a smile, "Shui Lingzi, as you can see, my big brother was also injured by you guys. Don't you also have to compensate us with a piece of equipment?" After hearing Wukadee's reason, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Shadowless and asked, "Shadowless, I remember that you were also injured. Don't you also have to compensate us with a piece of level 20 equipment?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Shadowless smiled and nodded. "That's right. That's also the reason why I want the Tyngolman to compensate us with 3 pieces of level 20 equipment." After hearing the conditions of the 3 people, Shui Lingzi was about to speak when Silverblade, who wasn't too far away from them, suddenly roared, "I don't agree. You clearly promised me level 25 equipment. Why are you only giving me level 20 equipment? I don't agree. I definitely won't agree." Hearing Silverblade's hysterical roar, Li Shan's face couldn't help but change. He turned to look at Silverblade and angrily said, "Shut up. No one is allowing you to speak right now." Silverblade ignored Li Shan's angry roar and continued to roar, "No, I want level 25 equipment. I definitely don't want level 20 equipment. Hurry up and give me level 25 equipment." Seeing that Silverblade didn't listen to him, Li Shan's face suddenly turned green. He was about to go up and teach Silverblade a lesson, but he was stopped by Li Mingshui. Li Shan froze for a moment before he reacted. There are so many people here. If someone wanted to speak up, it should be someone else. Thinking of this, Li Shan stopped his steps as if he didn't hear Silverblade's words. Although Li Shan didn't stop Silverblade, Silverblade didn't relax and continued to roar. "Hurry up and give me level 25 equipment. I only want level 25 equipment." In this kind of situation, no one spoke. Only Silver Saber's 4 loud roars were left in the field, echoing in everyone's ears. After who knows how long, Silverblade's voice gradually became softer and softer, as if he was tired. Then he slowly stopped. When there was no more sound, Shadowless smiled and said, "Shui Lingzi, since this is a discussion between everyone, you should say something. We've already made our conditions clear, so you should at least give us an answer." Hearing Shadowless's question, Water Spirit nodded. "Shadowless, do you think the conditions you stated are reasonable? Should I give it to you?" Hearing Water Spirit's words, Shadowless froze for a moment, then smiled and said, "Of course it's reasonable. You guys injured Silverblade and still gave him level 20 equipment. Am I, Shadowless, not worth as much as Silverblade?" Water Spirit nodded. "Shadowless, you're right. You are indeed worth more than Silverblade. His conditions are also reasonable." After saying this, Water Spirit turned to Wu Kadi and asked, "Wu Kadi, do you think it's reasonable to ask for 3 level 20 equipment from the Taingongman?" Hearing Water Spirit's question, Wu Kadi immediately nodded and replied loudly, "Of course it's reasonable. Is my big brother not worth as much as a small Silverblade?" Hearing Wu Kadi's answer, Shui Lingzi nodded again and turned her gaze to Li Shan. "Li Shan, do you think the conditions of your godly sword sect are reasonable?" Li Shan nodded without hesitation. "Of course it's reasonable. 2 pieces of equipment were our initial conditions, so there's nothing to say about it. Most importantly, you injured our Godly Blade faction's disciples, so you should compensate us with 1 piece of equipment. Is this unreasonable?" Hearing Li Shan's answer, Water Spirit nodded again. After pondering for a moment, she raised her hands and waved them towards the sky. At the same time, she kept shouting, "Level 20 equipment, hurry up and drop it." They're still waiting for it. Water Spirit looked towards the sky and screamed. Chapter 502. Everyone looked at Shui Lingzi, who seemed to have gone crazy, screaming at the sky. They were all startled and looked towards the sky, but even after looking for a long time, they still couldn't find any clues. After a while, Shadowless couldn't help but ask, "Water Spirit, what are you doing?" Hearing Shadowless's words, Water Spirit put down her hands and said loudly, "Didn't you guys want level 20 equipment? I'm just waiting for them to fall from the sky." Shadowless's face turned ugly. "Water Spirit, don't joke around. You're still in the mood to joke around at a time like this." Water Spirit turned to Shadowless and said seriously, "Shadowless, do you think level 20 equipment doesn't fall from the sky?" Shadowless's face turned even uglier and said angrily, "Water Spirit, don't talk nonsense. How could equipment fall from the sky?" Hearing this, Water Spirit shrugged and helplessly said, "Seeing you guys talking so casually and asking for equipment so quickly, I thought that equipment would fall from the sky." Wu Kadi said angrily, "Water Spirit, are you playing with us? How could equipment fall from the sky?" Water Spirit sighed. "So many level 20 equipment, I really can't think of any other way to get them other than falling from the sky." Wu Kadi said angrily, "Water Spirit, we're kind enough to negotiate with you, but you're playing with us. Aren't you being too insincere?" Water Spirit sighed. It's not that we're insincere. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi pointed at the people in front of her one by one before continuing. It's you people who are too insincere. Wu Kadi said angrily. We just want a few pieces of equipment. How? Is that insincere? Water Spirit sighed. Wu Kadi, do you know how difficult it is to forge a level 20 equipment? Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. If you want to forge a piece of level 20 equipment, the first condition is to have good materials. Do you think that good materials come from nowhere? You need to search for them bit by bit and spend a lot of manpower and money to obtain them. In addition, to forge a level 20 equipment, just one good material isn't enough. You also need a lot of materials. Each material is very precious. Some of them are even precious materials that some people won't even see in their lifetime. Could it be possible to forge a piece of level 20 equipment with these good materials? Let me tell you, you're wrong. Even if you're a master, there's still a chance of making a mistake when forging a level 20 equipment. Even if you gather enough precious materials, you might end up making a pile of scrap metal and waste countless precious materials. To successfully forge a level 20 equipment, the amount of manpower and resources needed is not something you can imagine. Outsiders like you will never be able to understand the hardships involved. At this point, Water Spirit sighed, but all of you think that level 20 equipment is something that fell from the sky, something that was blown by the wind, something that could be easily obtained without spending any effort. You guys asked for so many level 20 equipment, but now you're saying I'm not sincere. Tell me, who's the one being insincere? Water Spirit's words were sharp and eloquent. She spoke of the hardships of forging a piece of equipment and the difficulties of obtaining a piece of level 20 equipment. After everyone heard this, they all went silent. Just when the entire place was silent, Silver Saber, who had recovered his strength, suddenly shouted loudly. Water Spirit, forging equipment is your Heaven's Craftsman faction's business. If there are any difficulties, it's also your faction's business. Today you injured me, so you must compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Hearing Silver Knife's words, everyone's heart moved and they immediately understood. Wu Kadi was the first to speak. Water Spirit, Silver Knife is right. Forging equipment is your Taingalman's business. How much effort you put in is also your Taingalman's business. It has nothing to do with us. Speaking up to here, Wu Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. Right now, we just want to get what we deserve. As for how you, Taingalman, forge and find the materials, it has nothing to do with us. Right now, we just want the equipment that we deserve. Shadowless also sneered and said, Water Spirit, your Heaven's Craftsman Gate is a sect that forges equipment. Although it takes a lot of time and materials to forge equipment, you also get a lot of profit from it. We don't care about that. We just want what we deserve. After hearing the two's words, Li Shan turned to look at Water Spirit and sighed. Water Spirit, although I know that forging equipment is not easy, it's also not easy for our Godly Knife sect to nurture a disciple with a future. Speaking up to here, Li Shan paused for a moment before continuing. First of all, it's very difficult to choose a disciple. The chosen disciple has to be talented, have a good character, and know how to respect the master. Next is the teaching of the disciple, and I'm sure Water Spirit understands how much effort is put into this. In short, the disciple that we spent so much effort to nurture was heavily injured by you. Who knows, he might never be able to practice martial arts again. Equipment is your Taingalman's most precious thing, and our Godly Knife sect's most precious thing is our disciples. You injured one of our precious disciples. Is there anything wrong with compensating a piece of equipment? Hearing Li Shan's words, Wu Kadi didn't wait for Water Spirit to reply and spoke first. Li Shan is right. Yu Taingalman's equipment is incomparably precious, but are our people not precious? Speaking up to here, Wu Kadi paused for a moment before continuing. My big brother has been practicing martial arts for so many years. Isn't that precious? Don't you know how important my big brother is to our Wu clan? My precious elder brother was also injured by you guys. Don't tell me that we can't settle this debt with you guys." Hearing the two's words, Shadowless hurriedly took a step forward and loudly said, "Water Spirit, it wasn't easy for my master to teach this disciple of mine. Dozens of years of teaching, is that not worth anything? You injured me, which is the same as hurting my master's heart." Speaking up to here, Shadowless paused for a moment before continuing, "Water Spirit, I don't blame you for injuring me, but my master is already so old, yet he still worries about me. Do you know how much pain I feel in my heart? If my master is too upset because of this, I'm afraid that as his disciple, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Chapter 503. Water Spirit looked at the three people in front of her with a dumbfounded expression, unable to speak for a while. After a while, two words appeared in Shui Lingzi's mind. Shameless. Too shameless. For equipment, these guys didn't even care about their faces. Li Shan kept saying that the silver knife was very important. It would be strange if Shui Lingzi believed him. This time, the godly knife sect's silver knife came to use him as cannon fodder. Perhaps Yin Dao of the godly knife school had come to injure him or even kill him by the people of the Heaven's Craftsman sect so that they could profit from the situation. But such a shameless thing, such an unimportant disciple, in Li Shan's mouth, became the pillar of the godly knife sect, a precious disciple. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi sneered in her heart. If the silver knife was really that precious in Li Shan's eyes, he would have gone to save him already. Why would he wait for compensation and not save him? And that Wu Kadi, he was even more annoying. His big brother Wu Katian was still standing there, but in his mouth, it was like he was injured and couldn't stand up. He even had the face to ask for compensation. The most annoying person was that Shadowless. Shadowless did have some light injuries, but what did it have to do with his master? In the end, it was all a bunch of nonsense. Thinking of this, Shui Lingzi's hands were trembling in anger. Because of this, she couldn't even speak. Fire Spirit shouted from the side, "You shameless bastards, what are you saying?" At this point, the Fire Spirit paused and pointed at Li Mingshan. He angrily said, "You keep saying that the silver knife is very important. Since it's so important, why don't you save him now? Can't you see that his injuries are so serious? If you don't save him now, he'll be crippled for the rest of his life." After saying this, the Fire Spirit pointed at Wu Kadi. "Wu Kadi, you old man, you're talking even more nonsense. Wu Katian is clearly standing there perfectly fine. Why do you make it sound like he's heavily injured?" Fire Spirit pointed at Shadowless and angrily said, "You keep saying that your master will be sad for you. Why do I see that your master drank more than anyone else?" Speaking of this, Fire Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, "Shadowless, don't tell me that you're drinking to drown your sorrows." Fire Spirit suddenly roared, "You despicable people, you still want to wait for the Tiangongman's equipment? In your dreams, even if we throw the Tiangongman's equipment into the water, we won't give it to you." Li Mingshan was irritated by the Fire Spirit's words. He pointed at the Fire Spirit and said angrily, "Fire Spirit, who is talking nonsense? The reason why we didn't treat Yin Dao now is because we were afraid that the Heaven's Craftsman faction wouldn't admit it after he was healed. Is that wrong?" Speaking of this, Li Shan paused and snorted before continuing, "Or is it that you Tiangongmen don't want to pay?" Fire Spirit took a step forward and angrily said, "Li Shan, it doesn't matter if we pay or not. Shouldn't you treat your precious disciple first?" Li Shan shook his head and sneered, "I think you're just waiting for us to heal him so that you can take the chance to not pay." Fire Spirit immediately laughed. "I think you're talking nonsense. Yin Dao isn't your precious disciple. He's just cannon fodder in your eyes." Li Shan angrily said, "It doesn't matter if he's our precious disciple or not. You just need to compensate us for the equipment." After hearing Li Shan's words, Fire Spirit immediately laughed. "How about it? I'm not wrong, right? Yin Dao isn't your precious disciple. You just want to take the opportunity to ask for the equipment." Li Shan was angered by Fire Spirit's words. He took a step forward and yelled, "Yin Dao, you don't have to care what position he has in our godly knife sect. Anyway, you injured our godly knife sect disciple, so you have to pay." Fire Spirit sneered, "What if I don't pay?" Hearing Fire Spirit's answer, Li Shan suddenly grabbed the handle of the knife behind him and yelled, "If you don't want to pay, you have to ask my knife first." Fire Spirit laughed toward the sky. "Li Shan, do you think I'm afraid of you? I really want to see if your martial arts are as good as your words." Hearing Fire Spirit's answer, Li Shan didn't say anything this time. He slightly tightened his grip on the knife handle and stared at Fire Spirit, trying to find a flaw in him. Seeing this, Fire Spirit immediately felt a sense of danger. He didn't dare to take it anymore. Although he was laughing, he was on guard in case Li Shan suddenly attacked. Seeing that the two were about to fight, Wu Kadi suddenly yelled, "What's going on? Aren't we going to discuss something? Are we not going to discuss it?" Hearing Wu Kadi's words, Li Shan woke up a little and his anger slowly dissipated. He couldn't be the first one to step forward. There was no benefit in doing so. After understanding this point, Li Shan took a deep breath and slowly exhaled the anger in his heart. Only then did he speak softly. He then softly said, "Fire Spirit, if you want to fight, we have plenty of chances. Today, let's talk about business." Fire Spirit sneered, "Serious business? What's serious business? You guys just want the equipment of our Heaven's Craftsman faction." Wu Kadi sneered, "Fire Spirit, watch your words. We don't want the equipment, you gave it to us." Speaking up to here, Wu Kadi paused and turned to look at Water Spirit before continuing. "Water Spirit, I didn't say anything wrong, right? The first two pieces of level 20 equipment were given to us by you on your own initiative, right?" Hearing Wu Kadi's question, Water Spirit calmly nodded. "That's right. I did give you the equipment at the beginning, but now I regret it and don't want it anymore." Wu Kadi sneered, "Why? Don't you want to take away Kikiamin's people?" Water Spirit shook her head. "I do, but the price you guys want is too high. I can't afford it, so I don't want to." Hearing Shui Lingzi's answer, Wu Kadi thought for a moment before asking, "Shui Lingzi, then tell me, what kind of price can you afford to pay?" Hearing this, Water Spirit looked around and said in a deep voice, "I can afford one piece of level 20 equipment from each of your three families." Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, "If you guys agree to this condition, our agreement will take effect immediately." Hearing Shui Lingzi's conditions, everyone present was shocked. Originally, they agreed to give 2 level 20 equipment to each of the three families, but in the blink of an eye, it became 1 level 20 equipment for each family. Chapter 504. After hearing Water Spirit's words, Wu Kadi suddenly shouted, "Water Spirit, you didn't keep your word. You promised us 2 level 20 equipment, and now you're going back on your word. You're not trustworthy at all." Water Spirit coldly laughed. "What do you mean by trustworthy? Wu Kadi, tell me, have you ever kept your word?" Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "We agreed on 2 pieces of level 20 equipment, but you used all kinds of reasons to ask for 3 pieces of equipment. What kind of behavior is this? Is this how you keep your word?" Wu Kadi's face turned red, and he couldn't say anything. Seeing this, Shadowless quickly stepped up and said, "Water Spirit, this isn't Wu Kadi's fault. You injured his brother, so shouldn't you compensate him?" Water Spirit turned to look at Shadowless and sneered, "Shadowless, if we do as you say, then the Heaven's Craftsman Gate will compensate with a piece of level 20 equipment. If we injure someone, then the Heaven's Craftsman Gate might as well close down. I'm afraid the equipment we forge won't be enough to compensate." Shadowless shook his head. "Water Spirit, that's not right. You injured someone for no reason, and you're just going to let it go?" Fire Spirit suddenly shouted, "Shadowless, what do you want?" Shadowless coldly laughed. "I don't want anything. I just want to get fair compensation." Water Spirit shook her head. "Shadowless, what you're doing isn't fair at all. What do you mean by fair compensation?" Speaking up to here, Water Spirit paused for a moment before continuing. "When the two sides fought, wasn't your side that suffered a loss. Fire Spirit was also injured. Didn't you see that? Shouldn't your two families compensate him as well? Shadowless coldly laughed. He was the one who attacked first. Why should we compensate him? Water Spirit looked at Shadowless and asked word by word. Shadowless, you're saying that only we Tiangongmen can compensate you, and you won't compensate us? After hearing Shui Spirit's words, Wu Kudi suddenly said loudly, Shui Spirit, it was Fire Spirit who attacked first. Why should we compensate him? If it was my big brother who attacked first, we would naturally compensate you. Water Spirit coldly laughed. Don't you know why Fire Spirit attacked first? If we kept insulting you, you wouldn't have been able to hold back. I think everyone is responsible for this, and no one can blame anyone. If everyone wants to blame us, then we'll just have to go our separate ways. As soon as Shui Spirit's voice fell, and before Wu Ke could reply, Li Mingshan suddenly said loudly, Shui Spirit, since you said so, did Yin Dao also insult you? Water Spirit turned to Li Mingshan and sneered. Li Mingshan, what did Yin Dao say just now? Didn't you hear him? If he wasn't so aggressive, Fire Spirit wouldn't have attacked. Li Shan sneered. Really? Why didn't I hear Silver Knife insult you? Fire Spirit suddenly shouted, You didn't hear it because you're deaf. As soon as Fire Spirit said this, Li Mingshan had already reached out and grabbed the handle of the blade. He turned around and glared at Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit, I dare you to repeat what you just said. Fire Spirit saw this and laughed. Li Shan, look, aren't you the same? You can't be insulted, but do you think I, Fire Spirit, can be insulted by anyone? Li Shan gritted his teeth and slowly let go of his blade. He coldly said, I didn't hear what Silver Knife said. Water Spirit suddenly walked up and said, It's already happened. It doesn't matter if Silver Knife said those words or not. Speaking here, Water Spirit paused for a bit before continuing, because you don't care about this, you only care about the equipment. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Shan's face turned red, but he quickly returned to normal. Water Spirit, Silver Knife, is our godly knife sect's disciple. Of course we care about him. You don't need to care about this. I just want to know, what should we do about this? Water Spirit sneered. What should we do, Li Shan? Tell me, what should we do? This time, before Li Mingshan could speak, Li Mingshu couldn't hold back anymore and said loudly, You injured the disciples of our Heaven's Craftsman faction, so you must compensate us. Otherwise, we won't let you go. Hearing Li Mingshue's words, Water Spirit nodded. Li Mingshue, you mean we should compensate Silver Knife? Li Mingshue nodded. Of course. Do you think our godly knife sect is easy to bully? After listening to Li Mingshue's words, Shui Lingzi suddenly sighed and said, I've said it before, a small silver blade would always talk about our godly blade sect. Now it seems like he's just learning from you protectors. Li Shan heard this and angrily said, Water Spirit, don't change the topic. We're talking about compensation. Why are you talking about useless things? Water Spirit nodded. Okay, since we're talking about compensation, then tell me, how should I compensate you? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshue paused for a moment, then loudly said, Still according to the previous conditions, compensate us with a level 20 equipment. At this moment, Silver Knife, who hadn't spoken for a long time, once again let out a heart-wrenching cry after hearing this. No, I won't agree. We already agreed on level 25 equipment. Why are you only giving us level 20 equipment? I won't agree. In the beginning, when Yin Dao shouted, everyone just listened. But as he shouted too many times, they didn't even bother to listen anymore. They just treated his words as if they were nothing more than passing wind, passing by their ears. Hearing this voice, Water Spirit sneered. This madman, is he one of the elites of your godly knife sect? Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshue's face turned red, but he forced himself to calm down and said, Water Spirit, you don't have to care about this. You just have to compensate us. Water Spirit shook her head. I have to care. If he's a madman and not an elite of her godly knife sect, then why should I compensate you with a level 20 equipment? Do you think that we'll just casually kill a madman and compensate you with a level 20 equipment? I think that no matter how strong we Tai and Gongman are, we wouldn't do such a thing. Hearing Water Spirit's words, Li Mingshui gritted his teeth and nodded. That's right, Silver Knife is an elite of our godly knife sect. Water Spirit, what else do you have to say? Water Spirit nodded. This is your godly knife sect's matter, so I naturally have nothing to say. However, I do have some questions. Chapter 505. Li Mingshui said angrily, I already said that Yin Dao is an elite disciple of our godly sword sect. What other questions do you have? Shui Lingzi shook her head. Li Mingshui, I just want to ask, are all the elite disciples of your godly sword sect like this? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshui clenched his teeth and turned to look at Yin Dao, then said in a cold voice, Shui Lingzi, what does this have to do with you? Shui Lingzi shook her head. It doesn't matter. I'm just a little worried. Speaking up to here, Shui Lingzi paused for a moment before continuing. If all the elite disciples of your godly sword sect are lunatics like this, then your godly sword sect will be in danger in the future. As soon as Shui Lingzi finished speaking, she immediately heard a crisp sound and a white light flashed in front of her eyes. Shui Lingzi saw that the situation was not good, so she hurriedly stomped on the ground and rushed out. The white light carried a cold chill and landed where Shui Lingzi was standing. After a muffled sound, a large hole was formed in the ground. Shui Lingzi, who had already dodged the attack, saw the danger of this attack and sucked in a breath of cold air. Without waiting for Water Spirit to calm down, Fire Spirit roared and punched out with both of his fists towards Li Mingshui. Li Mingshui sneered and did not take back the sword in his hand. Instead, he shook it slightly in front of him and turned it into a sword light that swept towards Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit's martial arts were not weak. Seeing that Li Mingshui had changed his move, he roared again and jumped into the air and continued to rush towards Li Mingshui. Although Li Mingshui's sword light was sharp, it was already outside the circle and Fire Spirit was already in front of him. Helplessly, he could only wave his left fist and meet Fire Spirit's attack. Pa! The two fists clashed together, and Li Mingshui felt a huge force pass through him. His left fist couldn't completely block the Fire Spirit's attack. Helplessly, Li Mingshui could only use the momentum to jump back and try to resolve this attack. Fire Spirit was overjoyed when he saw this. As soon as he landed on the ground, he jumped into the air again and wanted to chase after Li Mingshui. However, at this moment, a figure rushed over from the side like a bolt of lightning and blocked the Fire Spirit's attack. Fire Spirit wanted to stabilize his body and resolve the enemy's attack, but the speed of the person was too fast. Just as he stabilized his body, he felt a punch on his side and his whole body was sent flying. When Li Mingshui landed on the ground, he felt a surge of emotions. He felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. A wave of heat surged up his throat, but he endured it and suppressed this feeling. On the other side, Fire Spirit was not having a good time either. When he was in midair, he had already spat out a mouthful of blood. Water Spirit saw that something was wrong and quickly went up to support Fire Spirit. She asked with concern, Fire Spirit, how are you? Fire Spirit coughed and wiped his mouth before replying. He replied. I'm fine. After Li Shan repelled the Fire Spirit, he hurried over to Li Mingshui. Are you? I'm fine. Fire Spirit won't be able to hurt me. In that split second, Fire Spirit and Li Mingshui were both injured. Seeing that Fire Spirit was fine, Fire Spirit turned to Li Mingshui and angrily said, Li Mingshui, you dare to sneak attack us? Do you have any morals? Li Mingshui also angrily said, you injured our godly knife sex people. Do you still have any morals? Fire Spirit sneered and slowly walked towards Li Mingshui. Li Mingshui naturally did not show any weakness. He tightly grasped the handle of his knife. As long as Fire Spirit dared to attack, he would immediately cut her under his knife. Shui Lingzi arrived 3 steps away from Li Mingshan and stopped. 3 steps was the best distance for Fire Spirit to attack. It was also the distance from which she could display the most power. Fire Spirit looked at Li Mingshui and coldly said, "Your godly knife sect attacked us secretly. Do I need an explanation?" Li Mingshui shook his head. "Fire Spirit, their people are also injured. Who can give me an explanation?" Fire Spirit turned to look at Li Mingshui. "He attacked first. If I didn't dodge quickly, you would have succeeded." Li Mingshui sneered. "Why did he attack?" This time, before Fire Spirit could answer, Li Mingshui spoke first. "Fire Spirit, if you didn't insult our godly knife sect, I wouldn't have attacked." Fire Spirit sneered. "If that's the case, then it's my fault. I insulted your godly knife sect first, and then you attacked me. Is that my fault?" Li Mingshui sneered. "No matter what, since you dare to say those words, then you have to bear the consequences." Hearing Li Mingshui's answer, Fire Spirit took a deep breath. She turned to Yin Dao and suddenly laughed. "If that's the case, then it's not wrong for us to injure Yin Dao." Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshui was stunned for a moment. Then, he angrily said, "That's not the same thing. Yin Dao's matter is different from mine." Fire Spirit suddenly sighed. "I think the matter of injuring people, why don't we just forget about it? We're all people of the Jianghu. It's normal for us to get injured. Why bother?" Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshui's eyes suddenly narrowed. He turned to look at Fire Spirit and asked word by word, "Fire Spirit, what do you mean by that?" Fire Spirit sighed. "We're all people of the South region. Why do we have to hurt each other over such a small matter? I think everything that happened tonight, why don't we just forget about it? Let's just treat it as if it never happened. We can start afresh. If there's anything, say it, and if there's any conditions, we can discuss it." Isn't that good? Fire Spirit's words had just left her mouth when Yin Dao suddenly roared. "Fire Spirit, you're dreaming. You want to use this opportunity to not compensate me? In your dreams, I won't let you go. If you don't compensate me with a piece of level 25 equipment, I'll let everyone in the South region know that you, Fire Spirit, are a person who doesn't keep your words." Hearing Fire Spirit's words, even the usually calm Fire Spirit's face changed color. If Yin Dao really did this, he would be spreading bad news about Shui Lingzi. This wouldn't do any good to Shui Lingzi. Thinking of this, Fire Spirit's eyes flashed with killing intent. Fire Spirit rarely had this kind of mentality. Today, he was really angry. A godly sword sect's disciple dared to challenge a Tiangongman's consecrator. He really didn't know when to back down. Hearing Fire Spirit's words, Li Mingshui's face also changed. Fire Spirit didn't have a high status in the godly sword sect. Li Mingshui never looked up to him, but he never thought that this Fire Spirit would have so many tricks up his sleeves. Chapter 506. Li Shan suddenly sighed and turned to look at Shui Lingzi. "Shui Lingzi, what do you want to do?" Hearing Li Shan's words, Shui Lingzi immediately woke up. She bitterly smiled and shook her head. "It's all my fault. If I didn't show him kindness at the beginning, he wouldn't have become so daring." At this moment, Shui Lingzi was really regretting her actions. At first, when she saw that Yin Dao was young and ambitious and had the same style as her, she was naturally more tolerant and kind to him. But she never thought that because of her kind actions, Yin Dao would take an inch and want a mile. He actually thought that she was easy to bully and wanted something that was impossible. Yin Dao was now crazy to the point that he couldn't be any crazier. In his mind, there was only that level 25 equipment. He always believed that as long as he got that level 25 equipment, his life would immediately change. He would also set foot on the peak of his life and become a person above all others. But in the eyes of a sober person, all of this was just a dream. Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and expelled this regret from her mind. Then she slowly said, "Li Shan, I still say the same thing. I think we should forget about today's matter. We injured Yin Dao, and you also injured Fire Spirit. How about we just forget about this matter?" Hearing Shui Lingzi's words, Li Shan hesitated. Yin Dao was a madman. He already knew that for this madman, continuing to make things difficult for Shui Lingzi was unwise. Could it be that they really had to give up? Don't forget that there was still a level 20 equipment. If they could get that level 20 equipment, Li Shanshan would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. Li Shanshan was also hesitating about this point. He was very clear that what Shui Lingzi said was correct. They shouldn't pursue this matter any further. If they did as Water Spirit said and obtained 2 pieces of level 20 equipment from the Heaven's Craftsman Gate, the 2 brothers would be rewarded when they returned. However, they had lost a piece of level 20 equipment. Was it worth it? Just as Li Mingshan was hesitating, Li Mingshui suddenly yelled out, "No, Yin Dao's injuries and Fire Spirit's injuries are even, but what about my injuries? You injured me. Are you going to let it go like this?" Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled, cupped her fists towards Li Mingshui, and said apologetically, "Today's matter, all of us are at fault. If you don't mind, us brothers will come to apologize to you another day." At this moment, Yin Dao suddenly staggered to his feet and walked towards Shui Lingzi shakily. "Water Spirit, I already said that this matter won't end here. As long as you don't compensate me with level 25 equipment, I won't let you off." Looking at the silver knife that was about to fall to the ground at any moment, Shui Lingzi felt her hands trembling slightly, and her heart was thumping wildly, and a voice kept ringing in her mind. "Beat him up! Beat him up! Beat this annoying guy into a pulp." Seeing the murderous intent in Shui Lingzi's eyes getting stronger and stronger, Li Mingshan suddenly stepped in front of her. "Shui Lingzi, what do you want? No matter what, Yin Dao is a disciple of our godly knife sect. I hope you don't forget this." Shui Lingzi clenched her teeth. "Li Mingshan, must you protect him?" Li Mingshan said seriously, "If Yin Dao made a mistake, then the godly knife sect's rules will punish him. No outsider can interfere." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Shui Lingzi took a deep breath and slowly said, "If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you to take him away, so I don't have to worry about him." At this time, Yin Dao had already arrived behind Li Mingshui, and after hearing Shui Lingzi's words, he suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Water Spirit, stop dreaming. If you want our protector to take me away, then you can save that level 25 equipment. I'm not telling you, if I don't get your compensation today, then no one can take me away." Before Yin Dao could finish his words, Li Mingshan angrily slapped him in the face, causing him to tumble and fall to the ground again. Yin Dao kept screaming on the ground. He wanted to get up again, but his injuries were too serious. After trying a few times, he finally gave up. Yin Dao fell to the ground and suddenly pointed at Li Mingshan. "Sir Protector, why did you hit me?" Li Mingshan turned around and looked at Yin Dao, coldly saying, "You disobeyed your superiors, so you don't deserve to be hit?" Hearing this, Yin Dao suddenly shouted, I understand. You're scared of Shui Lingzi, so you're taking out on me." After hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan raised his hand again, but after a moment, he weakly put it down. Yin Dao's injuries were too severe. If he were to slap him again, Yin Dao might just die. Yin Dao was injured by Fire Spirit, so if he died, then it would be Fire Spirit who killed him. Li Mingshan definitely wouldn't take the blame for him. Seeing Li Mingshan raise his hand, Yin Dao wasn't afraid at all. He sneered and said, "I'm right. You're scared of them. So you want to agree to their conditions, right?" Speaking up to here, Yin Dao paused for a moment before continuing, "Sir Protector, listen to me. They won't dare to do anything to us. As long as you listen to me, then Shui Lingzi will compensate me with level 25 equipment. At that time, as long as I become a disciple of the godly knife sect's leader, I won't forget you." Enough! Yin Dao's words weren't finished, but he was interrupted by the furious Li Mingshan. Li Mingshan took a deep breath and calmed his anger, then slowly said, "Yin Dao, your injuries are too serious. Don't talk anymore. What I want to do, it's none of your business." Hearing Li Mingshan's words, Yin Dao once again sneered. "Sir Protector, you don't want me to do anything. Is it because you want to surrender? You're scared of Shui Lingzi. Are you scared that you can't beat her?" Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Shan's anger, which had calmed down a little, once again erupted like a volcano. He fiercely took a step forward and waved his hand again, hitting Yin Dao's face. Enough! Didn't you hear me tell you to shut up? Yin Dao was hit and rolled twice on the ground. He screamed as he tried to sit up again. Yin Dao took a few deep breaths, then coughed violently for a while. Finally, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his expression calmed down a bit. Seeing Yin Dao in such a miserable state, Li Mingshan couldn't bear it. He took a deep breath and drove out the anger in his heart, then slowly said, Yin Dao, there are some things you shouldn't worry about. You should recover first and don't move again. After this matter is settled, I will treat your injuries. Yin Dao wiped the stain on his mouth and looked up at Li Mingshan. Chapter 507. Yin Dao looked up at Li Mingshan and said while gasping for breath, Lord Protector, you must make Shui Lingzi compensate me for the level 25 equipment. Otherwise, you can't let him go. Speaking up to here, Yin Dao coughed again. After calming down a bit, he continued, Lord Protector, I'll leave it to you. Hearing Yin Dao's words, Li Mingshan's hand moved again. The thought of slapping Yin Dao's mouth once again emerged from the bottom of his heart. Li Mingshan took a deep breath and didn't answer Yin Dao's words. He slowly stood up. He didn't dare to speak. He was afraid that the anger in his heart would be ignited. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold himself back and directly beat Yin Dao into a pulp. Out of sight, out of mind. Li Mingshan silently muttered this sentence in his heart before turning around and walking away. Because everyone was standing close to each other, the conversation between Li Mingshan and Yin Dao was naturally heard clearly. After Li Mingshan left, everyone's eyes turned to Shui Lingzi. At this moment, Shui Lingzi didn't know what to say. She only knew that Yin Dao was crazy, completely crazy. Li Mingshui suddenly came to Shui Lingzi's side and whispered, Shui Lingzi, what are you going to do about Yin Dao? Shui Lingzi bitterly smiled and shook her head. I don't know. After saying this, Shui Lingzi turned to look at Li Mingshui. What do you think I should do? Hearing Shui Lingzi's question, Li Mingshui also bitterly smiled. I don't know either. The scene fell into silence. No one spoke anymore as they were all thinking about how to solve this problem. In fact, everyone understood that even if Shui Lingzi said that she would give up on taking away Kikyaman's people, it was because of some reason. In other words, Shui Lingzi's ultimate goal was definitely to take away Kikyaman's people. Therefore, there was still room for discussion in this negotiation. It wasn't that they had completely stopped talking. How to discuss this was a big problem. Before, they thought that as long as they discussed it, this matter would be settled. But after the appearance of Yin Dao, this matter became complicated. This was because Yin Dao's price was too high. A level 25 equipment. When the Wu family first came, the price was one level 24 equipment. After some bargaining, the price was reduced to 2 level 20 equipment. Why didn't the Wu family insist on the level 24 equipment? It was precisely because they knew how precious level 24 equipment was that the Heaven's Craftsman faction couldn't possibly give them such precious equipment that they gave up on this unrealistic idea. Instead, they changed their minds to an acceptable agreement of 2 level 20 equipment. Even the Wu family believed that it was impossible for them to obtain level 24 equipment. Yet, Silverknife insisted that he wanted level 25 equipment. This was truly difficult to deal with. If it was a normal person, everyone could persuade Yin Dao to give up this ridiculous idea. But now was not the time. Yin Dao was a madman, a complete madman. Everyone understood that for the sake of that level 25 equipment, Silverknife would do anything. If it wasn't for today's occasion, but any other place if Water Spirit and Yin Dao met, and Yin Dao dared to put forward such a condition, everyone was sure that Water Spirit would beat him into a pulp and throw him into the river. However, he couldn't do it now. There were so many people here. If he beat Yin Dao, this matter would definitely spread out. It wouldn't be good for anyone's reputation. So, Dao couldn't be beaten or scolded. He could only listen to him bargain. After a while, Shadowless suddenly looked up at Water Spirit and said with a smile, "Water Spirit, let's not bother with him. Let's talk about our conditions first. Once we're done, we won't interfere with what you do." Shadowless paused and glanced at Silverblade before continuing. "He's injured. Even if he wants to, can he do anything about it?" "Water Spirit, what do you think?" Hearing Shadowless' suggestion, Water Spirit nodded. "Okay, as long as everyone agrees, I won't say anything." Seeing that Water Spirit agreed, Shadowless turned to Wu-Kadi and asked with a smile, "Wu-Kadi, you heard what we just said. What do you mean?" Wu-Kadi nodded. "I don't have any objections. As long as we agree, why bother with that brat?" Shadowless quickly walked to Li Shan and asked with a smile, "Li Shan, what do you think?" Li Shan nodded faintly. "Okay, as long as the conditions are okay, I won't say anything." Seeing that everyone agreed, Shadowless clapped his hands in satisfaction and said loudly, "Since everyone agrees, then let's talk about it." As soon as Shadowless finished speaking, Dao's roar sounded from aside. "No, as long as I don't agree, this matter won't end here. I want my level 25 equipment. Water Spirit, you have to give it to me." Shadowless looked at Dao with disgust and then continued, "Now let's talk about the conditions. We'll start first." As soon as Shadowless finished speaking, Dao began to struggle. He coughed violently and tried to stand up. At the same time, he screamed, "No, I don't agree. Cough, cough." Hearing this, Shadowless took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. Then he turned to the crowd and said, "Who will start first?" Hearing this, everyone looked at the person next to them, wanting to let someone else speak first. Seeing that no one wanted to speak, Shadowless smiled and said, "Since no one wants to speak, then I'll do it. Same old rules. We'll do it like everyone said at the beginning. Each family will give 2 pieces of level 20 equipment." After saying this, Shadowless looked at everyone's expression. Seeing that no one had any objections, he turned to Shui Spirit and said with a smile, "Shui Spirit, what do you think?" Shui Spirit shook her head. "Not good. You 3 families will each get 2 pieces of level 20 equipment. This means that we need to give 6 pieces of level 20 equipment. That's too much. We Taiwanmen can't afford it." Hearing Shui Spirit's answer, Wu-Kadi, who had been silent, suddenly said, "Shui Spirit, what we just said, why did you change your mind?" Shui Spirit shook her head. "It's not that I changed, it's just that we Taiwanmen really can't take out that many level 20 equipment." Speaking up to here, Shui Spirit paused for a moment before continuing, "If you want to reach an agreement as soon as possible, I hope that you can lower your demands. That way, we can continue to discuss." As soon as Shui Spirit finished speaking, Li Shan on the side was furious. "Shui Spirit, you're a person who doesn't keep your words. We just agreed on something, and you're going back on your words in the blink of an eye. Do you look down on us and think that we're easy to bully?" Shui Spirit shook her head. "It's not that I think you're easy to bully. It's that you think I'm easy to bully." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.